Would everybody please rise? Dear God, today as the session opens, we pray that your presence will be before us and everyone who serves this decision-making process of our city. We pray for direction which will lead our city to be strong and unified. May we continue the legacy of our founders. May we be granted this day the wisdom to make decisions which be for the good of our city. We also pray for your special blessings on all those who are working to transform our city and make it a better place to live and work. Amen. We'll now do the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mayor Samaras.
Here.
Councilor Cirillo.
Here.
Councilor Conway.
Here.
Councilor Elliott.
Here.
Councilor Kennedy.
Here.
Councilor Leahy.
Here.
Councilor Mercia.
Here.
Councilor Milanese.
Here.
Councilor Newman.
Here.
9 present.
I believe we have a moment of silence. Councilor Mercia.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to offer a moment of silence in darkened chamber for John G. Jack Perry, beloved grandfather, father, and generous Lowellian, who moved his family to Lowell in 1973, where he resided for most of his life. In Lowell, Jack began his career at the Lowell Cooperative Bank in 1972 and retired as Executive Vice President and Treasurer in 2000. He also served his country for 6 years with the United States Army Reserve with the 94th Infantry Division. He was honorably discharged in 1963. He was dedicated to service in his adopted city and was involved in the management of many community organizations. He served as both president and treasurer of the Lowell Development and Financial Corporation, chairman of the Lowell Historic Board, treasurer and president of the Northeast Builders Association, and on the board of many other community organizations, including the Chamber of Commerce, the Downtown Lowell Business Association, Duville Manor Guild, House of Hope, and the Lowell Humane Society. His spirit of volunteerism was a driving force throughout his life, and his contributions to the city of Lowell were recognized with countless awards over the years. He will be fondly remembered in the community for having helped many families realize their dream of home ownership. Besides his indelible impact on the city, his legacy is in his family. He is survived by his 5 children, Denise, Donna, William, Diane, Daniel, and 7 grandchildren. His longtime companion, Gloria Palermo, who is with us this evening here in the chamber, and her family. He was also the grandfather of the late Nathaniel Ruby. We offer our sympathy to his family, relatives, and many friends, I personally being one of them. I'd also like to offer a moment of silence in darkened chamber to all those who have passed away since our last meeting. May they all rest in peace. Thank you.
Are there any other moments? Please darken the chamber. Thank you. Under Mayor's business, a request by Councilor Mercia. Councilor Mercia.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to introduce Dr. Manjula Badalori. She is a dentist trained in India and the United States, practicing in Boston area for over 20 years, and she most recently chose Lowell at 21 George Street to continue her practice. Her passion is for helping visually impaired children to improve oral health by teaching special techniques. Inspired by her daughter to provide good oral health habits, Dr. Manjula's goal is to connect them with resources in the United States. She will introduce her guest from India, Ashwini Angadi. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Yes.
Hello, good evening, everybody. My name
Just
is
speak into the mic, please.
Yes. Yeah. Good evening, everyone. My name is Dr. Manjula Batalori here. I'm a local dentist from Lowell. And I'm here to introduce Ashwini Angadi, who's come here all the way from India. And we started a project on oral care in blind children a couple of years ago. And we started from one school and it went on to many schools. And she was one girl that, who really touched my heart. And she asked me, along with oral care, is there anything more we can do for visually impaired, technically? And her dream was to come to Perkins School in Boston to get technically trained. And here she is. She just landed this afternoon. And she's a recipient of many awards, one of which is by the United Nations for Youth Courage and by Queen Victoria's Award in London too. And she is a founder of a visually impaired school, which has about 50 students. And here she is in Boston with a goal in mind, and I'll let her speak the rest. Yeah.
Good evening, everyone. I am Ashwini Angadi from India. I have traveled to Boston to get trained in advanced technology in education system from Perkins School for the Blind. Since I am running a free residential school for underprivileged, poor, visually impaired children called Bilaku Academy in India. So I can implement those technology in this school in India. So I thank you, Dr. Manjula and her family for coordinating and supporting me with this. And I thank you all for recognizing me in this stage. Thank you.
The City of Lowell is pleased to congratulate you and thank you for what you're doing. We have a citation, be it hereby known to all that the City of Lowell, Commonwealth of Massachusetts, hereby offers its sincere gratitude and congratulations to Ashwini Gandhi. A native of Bengaluru, India, Ashwini Gandhi was among 7 young ladies from across the world honored with the United Nations Special Envoy for Global Education Youth Courage Award for Education in 2013. Her dream was to establish a residential school that would allow visually challenged children study and become independent enough to get a job and earn their living. That dream came true with the establishment of the Ashwini Gandhi Trust and the 2016 formation of the Bilaku Academy School for Underprivileged Blind Children. The entire City of Lowell extends its warmest welcome and deepest appreciation to Ashwini for her many good works for the empowerment of differently abled children. Now, therefore, I, Mayor William J. Samaras, hereby offer all its best to you and the Bilaku Academy, and thank you for your part in making our world a better place, given this 25th day of June 2019, by myself, William J. Samaras, Mayor of Lowell. Congratulations.
Thank you.
We're going to go over here by the desk.
Go 4 steps.
One, two, three. One more, 1, 2, 3. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
All right.
Mr. Mayor.
You're welcome. All right, next, we have a vote to accept and approve the appointment of Karen O'Byrne for interim city auditor. Karen is the assistant city auditor, and she, by statute, would take that position, but,
Move to accept and approve, Mr. Mayor.
okay?
Seconded.
Second by Council Cirillo. Before we have a vote, could I ask Mary Callery to come up to talk about the salary? Oh, Mary, from the recommendation.
I think everybody has a copy of the grid on their desk. Karen's current salary is $72,974. Brian's was $110,974.76. So the highlighted grid, the first step is $94,479.84, which is my recommendation.
Move to accept the recommendation.
Okay. Second by Council Cirillo. Roll call. Yes.
Counsel Cirillo.
Yes.
Counsel Conway.
Yes.
Counsel Elliott.
Yes.
Counsel Kennedy.
Yes.
Counsel Leahy.
Yes.
Counsel Mercia.
Yes.
Counsel Milonazo.
Yes.
Counsel Noon.
Yes.
9 yeas.
Thank you very much. All right, next. we
Mr.
have-
Mayor?
I'm sorry.
Could I just ask Mary a question? This is sort of related. How are we doing with applications? We've posted it, or we've started to receive applications?
Yes, we have
How many have we received approximately?
7 or 8 so
Okay.
far.
All right. And when does it close? When does the posting close?
I think it's not next week, the week after that, a week from tomorrow.
A week from tomorrow?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So, Mr. Mayor, what are the plans to,
The thing is, I think
special meeting?
prior, yes.
Okay.
Prior to, once the closing happens, we'll send all that information out to all members of the council. And then depending what it looks like, I think we should set up for a special meeting.
Thank
Do
you.
this as soon as possible. Okay? All right, thank you. Next, we have the acceptance of the minutes of the city council meeting of June 11th. For acceptance, I need a motion to accept the place
So
on
moved.
file by Councilor Kennedy.
Second.
Seconded.
Second by Councilor Noon. Okay. Excuse me. Too early to start the hearing. We're going to go to communications from the city manager. Madam Manager, we'll start that, and I'll interrupt when
Yes.
we're ready for the hearing, okay?
Thank you.
The first is the water infrastructure update.
So, Mr. Mayor, with the permission, your permission and that of the council, I did have one announcement I wanted to make that doesn't appear on the agenda, but one that I thought was important to share with the council and constituents, and that is to announce the retirement of Karen Moynihan. Karen Moynihan has worked in the city manager's office now for over 5 years. She's interacted with all of you, I know, on a regular basis. She has interacted with virtually every department head, every division head, Mary Callery, you name it, as well as constituents. She's looking forward to retiring and maybe working a little part-time for that lawyer she used to work for once upon a time, former manager Kevin Murphy. So I wanted to share that and let people know, and Karen is here.
Thank you all very much. It's been a great run. I'll see you around. I'm still be around. Thank you.
I don't think you can leave this place, Karen. Thank you.
You can tell she didn't want me to do that, but she's done a great job for the city of Lowell, so, and she will be missed.
Okay. The water infrastructure update, that was a request by myself. At this point, I think the report was good. It covers the fact that we are looking to ensure that we don't have a breakdown in our system like other communities across the country have had. Madam Manager, anything else you want to update us?
No, Mark Young, I know, is here. If there are any specific questions, I think he's here. I saw him earlier. There he is. So if anyone had any specific questions, but I think the report pretty thoroughly gives a view of where we are in terms of the water distribution system and plans going forward as well.
Thank you, Mark, for the report. Councilor Elliott?
Yeah, it was a good report. I just had a question. Is Mr. Young here?
Yes, he is. He's right here.
The report indicates that there are some levels of lead as a result of older pipes. I know we have invested and we continue to invest to change out some of our pipes that date back, in some cases, 100 years old. But what is the plan for, I guess, how much more lead pipes are there?
Most of the lead issues that's from lead services in people's homes, and the recent authorization that you passed is going to address that. And as a matter of fact, we're looking to get some SRF funding from the federal government and state. There's a program that they have for dealing with the lead issue in people's homes. So that's one of the projects we want to do with the funding that we recently received.
Okay, but as was mentioned, there's no contamination. They're very, very low levels. It's not coming from the river. It's as a result of...
Correct. The lead levels in the river are extremely low.
Right, okay. Okay, thank you.
All set. Thank you. Next, we have the monument at Lemieux Park. Councilor Cirillo?
Hi, yes, thank you for the report, and I'm happy to see that the base is getting replaced. Thank you.
All right. Next, we have a motion response for the Lowell Fire Department, Lowell Police Department renovation updates by Councilor Noon. Councilor Leahy, any comments?
You want to go first? Thank you. Through you, the manager, Mr. Snow's here, maybe?
Yes,
Sure.
Commissioner Snow is in attendance and
Thank you. So where are we with the police department repairs? This started out, you weren't here, this just started out as a simple paint job and then turned into this, so where are we at this point?
My response is about the locker room renovation, we checked out a wall that we thought was bowing, turns out it wasn't, it was just sort of a cosmetic thing. We put it out to bid, we got 6 designers, there was a board put together. They had their #1 guy that they picked, or the #1 firm. They had to negotiate, I think it was price a little bit with them, but they've come to agreement now, and it's in the law department now for a contract to be written, and it'll be issued, and we'll move on from there. So.
Okay, and what are they getting? Are they getting, so they're gonna gut the locker rooms and then new lockers?
I don't know all of the specifics of it. I wouldn't want to speak out of turn.
Okay, but basically we're getting a couple new locker rooms and
right. I mean,
everybody's gonna have a locker.
correct. There will be new lockers in the locker room and the shower area will all be redone.
Okay.
We toured it recently and it's badly in need.
Okay. The other thing is with the list from the fire department.
Yes.
Again, you just came on board again, so when we did a walkthrough with the chief a few months back, maybe a year ago or so, there were a lot of little things too. So there's front doors that need to be painted, there's trim that's fallen off, things like that. So I want to make sure we're continuing with that.
We are.
There's the big projects.
No, this is just a list that I got from him of, he got a budget, certain amount of money to spend, and he prioritized it, and we're going through it as best we can. But we work in the fire stations almost every day, or certainly every week.
All right. And do you have any history on the Old Ferry Road roof? I thought the price that we got for that was ridiculous.
It was. We're going to do it ourselves,
Right.
actually starting tomorrow, if it, weather permitting. So
Okay.
the rain's been killing us. We have the material already. It's been delivered. It's just a matter of, we don't want to rip the roof off if it's going to rain the next day or something. So.
Okay, basically, we're gonna re-roof that
Yes.
back section?
Yep, yep.
Okay,
In-house. Yep.
okay, good. All right, yeah, if we can just keep going on this, once we get the big projects, I know we got a few of the big projects done. The other big project is the drains over here at the
Yes.
Civic Center, but if we can continue with doors that need to be replaced or fixed, trim where, like, I think it's High Street, big piece of trim in the back missing, and we have some wire up there so animals don't get in, but, you know, if we can keep attacking that and not let that list get big again, I'd appreciate it.
Sure.
Thank you. Thank you.
Councilor Noon?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Commissioner Snow, with regard to the fire or the police department, the locker room, you indicated that the contractor was selected. Do we know the timeline for the work?
No, I mean, it's a little too early. He doesn't even have his contract yet. Once we sign the contract with all the signatures, he'll come up with sort of a preliminary schedule of how long he thinks it'll take him to get the design work done. And I think part of his project will be to come up with an estimated schedule for the actual construction once it gets to that, but it's a little too early in the process to guess at what that might be.
Would you estimate it maybe start sometime in the late, maybe in the beginning of August, or?
Start construction, that's, I
early?
think that's too soon. I think it might be more like fall, but again, I can't really speak to it factually until.
So what's going to happen to when the construction is going on the locker room? Do we have places where officers can,
I believe the police department has plans to maybe use the roll call room or something as a temporary locker room while they're fixing one locker room, and then shift to the next one, and yeah, there's going to be like a shell game there.
I see. You have a list of work for the fire department. There's a couple dozen on the second page here, and a few of them was completed. And other will be indicated at start in the summer. How long how long would it take some of these projects to be completed? Would it be completed before the end of the summer?
Certainly some of them will be. Most of them are not long-term projects. It's just a matter of being able to dedicate people and resources to the job before the phone rings and they have to run somewhere else. But some of them, if it just says to be determined, those are the ones we're not quite sure on. But the ones that say summer 2019, we should finish hopefully before the end of the summer. That's the plan.
So originally the old Ferry Road firehouse is supposed to be subcontracted to outside, and now your department take on that project, right?
Yes.
So you'll be tied up on that. So other issues in some of the firehouse, would it be possible to maybe farm it out to outside contractors to work on it so that we can complete it on time?
Some of the other projects are going to be, if you look in the column that says who will do the job.
Right, I see that.
If it says outside contractor, the plan is to give it to an outside contractor to accomplish it.
I see. All right. Would you keep us updated? That would be great, though. Thank you, Commissioner.
Sure. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner. Why don't we go to the public hearings? It's now 7 o'clock. And we'll come back to the city manager's communication. The first is general public hearing ordinance amend zoning by extending the L1 district to include all of 264, 266 Plain Street and 58 Montreal Street. Before I open the hearing, this was also on 6.4 recommended by the planning board. So open the hearing for those who want to speak in favor. In favor, please give your name.
Good evening, Mayor Samaras, Manager Donnie, members of the council. For the record, my name is Attorney Steve Geary, and I represent Jeremy McSorley, who is the manager of Pineapple Realty Trust. I'm also here with my brother-in-law partner, John Geary, who's assisting in this petition. Just briefly, by way of background, on May 20th, we appeared before the planning board with this project, and the planning board thoroughly vetted the facts related to this project. And a lot of their, first of all, it was unanimous approval, and a lot of the comments that they made were that this is a good use of the land as opposed to the regular rule where you stick with the more restricted use when a lot line dissects the middle of two separate zones. In this case, it's a TTF and a light industry. Here, my client proposes the extension of the light industry all the way down, which is related to 264 and 266 Plain Street, and a little small triangular piece at 58 Montreal Street. That piece is owned by the city of Lowell, and it's basically just been put out, my understanding is to surplus land. The only person who would have any use for that would be my client, who has this land under the agreement from the railroad. If anybody has gone by that area, I guess the best way to explain it, if you're going over the bridge at Plain Street, where the car wash would be further up on your right, when you look over that bridge, you see all those abandoned railroad tracks. It's that parcel in there. It really wouldn't affect any residential area, and to have residential there, my client looked into that, had an engineer kind of give an idea of what could go there, and because of the shape and the configuration of that lot, it's really not practical at all for residential. Its best use is commercial use. The commercial use, light industry use is exactly consistent with the city's master plan, and that was brought up by the planning board. Also at the planning board hearing, there was one abutter, direct abutter, Colleen Cox, who owns Cox Fuel and a lot of the property in that area. We hadn't spoken to her before that, but she showed up and showed support of the project, and she kind of hit the nail on the head when she said that a residential use of that land would cause more problems than anything because of the nature of what is already there and has existed there for many, many years. The city needs this type of development in that area. My client doesn't know exactly what is going to be there. He's got some ideas and some concepts, but until he gets approval, he really isn't going to invest a lot of money in that. But he does own Greener Landscape, and it's a company on Bolt Street. He has been working in the city. He's from Tewksbury. He brought his business to the city, which is what we should encourage. And he now has 140 employees at that location. And he pays about $100,000 a year in property taxes between that and his home that he owns on Clark Road. But he's committed to the city, and he's asking the city to commit to him by extending this zoning down. We were brought, an issue was brought up earlier about some residual taxes, personal property taxes that he may owe, and I discussed that with my client, and he wants us to work with the city to figure that out. It started out to be a very small amount of taxes and somehow blew up to a number, I'm not sure, of 20 or 30 or 40,000, but he just hadn't dealt with it, but he plans on dealing with it. And this is the type of person that's, you know, not running away from any kind of debt that he may have to the city. He's not going anywhere. He pays tons, $100,000 a year in property taxes, and he's committed here. So that's an issue that we don't think is related to tonight's hearing. But just as a reminder, and I'm sure you all know, if this city council approves the extension of this zoning, he still has to go before all the boards for all their permits, and he'll be held to whatever that issue is to be resolved. He's asked us to work with the city to resolve that, and we heard about it first today, and we will do that. So that's just a side thing. But this project, I mean, this petition appears to make complete sense. If you go by the area and see what it's like, you probably, most, if not all, would agree that it's not conducive to residential development. It's much more conducive to the light industry, and that was echoed by the planning board unanimously. So we would have to answer any questions you have and hope that the council would agree that this is a good petition.
Are there any questions from the Councilor Mercier?
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Steve. What type of commercial business did they intend to put there?
He's not sure yet. He's got some ideas about, it depends on, you know, a lot of different things. But it will be consistent with what's ever around there. It will be light industry. And again, anything that he does propose there has to go through the normal procedure for all the planning board and zoning board. If he's seeking any relief, he'll need site plan approval. So when he does come up with a final concept, and I'm not trying to keep anything from anybody, he really doesn't know what he's going to put there. There's several different options. I mean, he's got a commercial business now on Bolt Street, and you know, I'm not sure what he can do there or what he wants to do there. But if this is extended, then he would then invest the money into determining the best use of that light industry land.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Thank you. Anyone else wants to speak in favor? In favor? This portion is closed. Anyone who wants to speak in opposition? In opposition? In opposition? That portion is closed. I need a motion to adopt.
Sir, can I just ask a
Yes.
question? So, Mr. Gary, what is the issue with the taxes on these properties?
No, it's
property,
related
on
to-
something else?
Yeah, so he owns a business at Bolt Street, and he had some personal property tax there. Usually they were, I think his wife just told him they were $700 a year, and then when, the times got tough and whatever, he was, restructuring his business,
Okay.
he lost track of what that was. I can't imagine that it's up like it is, but it is, whatever it is, he's responsible for it. He knows that. He just wants us to look into how it got to where it is.
Yeah.
But it's related to Bolt Street, and it's personal property taxes, is my understanding. His personal property taxes, but his property taxes, real estate property taxes, my understanding, they're up to date, and he pays about $90,000 a year there, and another 10 for his home about on Clark Road. So he's up to date as far as property taxes, and he just didn't have his arms around this. But it's been on his list, and it's been on his list to do, and it's, he's, like I said, he has 140 employees. It's on the list, and he's engaged us to take over the list, so we will deal with it.
That's fine, as long as you're dealing with it, let's proceed. It makes sense to extend this. There's a report from the solicitor saying that it's not spot zoning, so I'm good with it, and as long as you're working with the treasurer.
And we'll work with Attorney Gary on the personal property tax. I mean, it's a different entity, but obviously
That's a
the
different
gentleman
entity.
is still, here, so we will certainly work together to try and
Okay,
resolve
that
the
makes sense.
outstanding.
I support that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You're all set, Councilor Elliott? Councilor Garcia?
Move approval.
Second.
Second. Roll call?
Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
Council Cirillo.
Yes.
Council Conway.
Yes.
Council Elliott.
Yes.
Council Kennedy.
Yes.
Council Leahy.
Yes.
Council Mercia.
Yes.
Council Milonazo.
Yes.
Council Noon.
Yes.
9 yeas.
Great.
All right.
Thank you,
next-
Counsel. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have 5.1, National Grid requests permission to replace existing gas main from 1847 Middlesex Street to Chelmsford Town Line. Want to open the hearing? In favor? Your name, sir?
Hi, my name's Jeff O'Conti. I'd be the supervisor managing the project. And we're looking to replace 1,800 feet of 4-inch bare steel with 6-inch plastic on the Middlesex Street.
Okay. All right, thank you. Anyone else want to speak in favor?
Hi, I'm the transportation engineer, Natasha Vance. The city is in support of moving forward with this project because we'd like to see it completed over the summer when traffic is less due to the schools being out. So just wanted to speak in favor of this project.
Thank you. Anyone else want to speak in favor? In favor? The portion is closed. Anyone want to speak in opposition? In opposition? Opposition? Any discussion, Councilor Elliott?
I just wanted to ask the applicant, how do you plan on repaving? So you're digging a little trench, and it's a concern. You're doing a lot of work of digging trenches, and
Yeah.
it's a lot of, we do a lot of paving, a lot of new roads. So is there a requirement? I know I asked the engineer lots about making sure that 5, 6, 7 years down the road, we don't have this.
Yep.
This trench, because, and it's happened a lot.
Well, for all of National Grid's trenches, we do a temporary patch, and we typically wait a few months. If this project ends, may end close to the fall, we may wait for a frost to go through and make sure there's no settling, and then we'll come back in the spring and do a grind, 6-foot grind, and resurface.
6 foot wide, okay.
6 foot
All
wide,
right,
yep.
well,
We do
because
that
there's
with
been
all,
some very good jobs done in the city, and then there have been some poor jobs. I don't know if you use
I think there
different
was one
contracts.
street that they had a bad mix that recently came up, but for the most part, I think the contractor we've been using has done a fairly good job. And anything that we,
It's fine.
will guarantee our work.
I don't want to belabor the issue, but I just want to make it because people complain about it.
All set, Councilor Mercia?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Do we request some sort of a performance bond when anybody goes into the street like that? You pay a bond in case something happens and you don't come back? Or you will come back?
We always come back. I mean, we're dealing with the city. You know, they give us the permits to do work. So, you know, if we don't fulfill our obligation, then we don't get to do work in the city.
That's right. Thank you.
Hi, Christine Clancy, City Engineer. I can just add to that, because we do with each permit require a street bond, and our typical amount is $25,000. But our permits are good for 60 days, and then we just renew that every 60 days. So it's essentially every permit is tied to a street bond.
Oh, good. Thank you.
Council Leahy.
Just my question was for the repaving too, more for Christine, if you don't mind. But so up in the area of Belvedere, like Loose Street, they went up to Glenwood Road maybe from Andover to Glenwood. Are we coming back to, do the paving up there?
Yes, that still has to be done. That was a patch, or a temporary patch, and then that has to come back and do a mill and overlay.
Okay.
So that sat through the winter season, and now we're at a point where we can do that.
Okay, and then just anything on Andover Street that still has asphalt needs to go to concrete again, right?
Correct.
So
Yeah, so that's something else that there's a list that we've coordinated with National Grid, and I'll send another reminder, but that is on the list, is that anything on Andover Street has to be concrete, and we have a certain criteria for that repair.
Okay, thank you.
All right, need a motion to refer to the wire inspector for report and recommendation.
So moved.
By Council Cirillo, second by Council Conway. Next, we have National Grid request permission to replace existing gas main on Chester Street between Howard and Liberty Street. All right, open the hearing for those in favor.
On this, we'll be replacing 2,100 feet of 4-inch cast iron with 6-inch plastic on Chelmsford Street from Liberty Street to Howard Street.
Okay. Anyone else speak in favor?
Natasha Vance, Transportation Engineer, speaking in favor of this project as well. Again, it's a busy street, and we would like to get it done while school is out.
Thank you. This portion is closed. Anyone else wants to speak in opposition? 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 That portion is closed. I need a motion, any discussion, further discussion? No. I need a motion to refer to the wire.
So moved.
By Council Cirillo, second by Council Leahy. Next, we have 5.3, National Grid requests reconstruction of gas pressure regulator station with associated piping and installation of updated safety measures at Moulton Square. I want to open the hearing for those in favor. In favor? Yes.
Hi, my name is Chris Marr. I'll be the supervisor for the project. National Grid's looking to replace an existing gas regulator station in approximately the same location within the square. We've worked with the city engineer on the appropriate restoration required of any necessary shrubs and trees that could be disturbed as well too.
All right, thank you. Anyone else speak in favor?
I just want to speak in favor of this project. I did meet with National Grid about this project, and Moulton Square is in need of some restoration. So as part of this agreement or this work, National Grid will be mulching and providing some plants and really fixing this area.
All right,
Thank you.
Anyone else in favor? Favor? That portion is closed. Anyone wants to speak in opposition? 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 That portion is closed. Any discussion? I need a motion to refer to the wire inspector for report and recommendation by Councilor Elliott, second by Councilor Conway. All set. Next, in 5.4, waveguide require installation of 450 feet of underground and below bridge conduit at Pawtucket Street Bridge over Northern Canal, Tiger Bridge project. I'll open the hearing for those in favor. In favor? Sir?
Steve Janko with waveguide. It'll be my crews that'll be doing the work associated with extending the conduit that's being placed under the bridge for the Northern Canal project to the riser poles. This is all being done so that the poles crossing the bridge can be removed. We're going to be doing a joint trench for Comcast Exonet Systems and the university to try to minimize the impact to the area. We'll do one dig and be able to place the conduit in parallel. We'll also be placing handholds on either side of the bridge, and Exonet Systems and UMass have agreed to share those handholds so that they can again minimize the impact to the street. This is part of that ongoing project there on Pawtucket Street. It is the expectation is that we have the conduit placed and the fiber rerun off of those poles so they can be removed by the end of the summer, September 1st.
All right, thank you. Anyone else speaking in favor?
Hi, I'm Claire Ricker. I'm the Chief Design Planner for the City of Louisville and the Tiger Bridge Project Project Manager. I'm speaking in favor of this petition. This will help further the Tiger Bridge project and keep us on schedule. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else in favor? Favor? That portion is closed. Anyone who wants to speak in opposition? Opposition? That portion is closed. Any discussion? Further discussion? All right, any motion to refer to the wire
So
inspector?
moved.
By
Second.
Councilor Cirillo, second by Councilor Mercia. Thank you. Next, we have National Grid slash Verizon New England request installation of geopole located at 12 Manchester Street. Open the hearing for those in favor.
Mr. Jackson, I'm the engineer on this project. A brief overview, the next 4 proposals or petitions are actually part of the same project. National Grid is proposing to install new 795 cable to Quebec substation. And since we'll be going double circuit, there's some clearance issues which resulted in us needing some additional poles. And pole loading analysis that was performed, we needed some mid-span poles to reduce tension on those new cables.
Okay. Thank you. Anyone else who wants to speak in favor? Favor?
Michelle Stacy, National Grid. I work in the distribution design department, and I'm in favor of this project.
Thank you. That portion is closed. Anyone speak in opposition? Opposition? That portion is closed. Any discussion? Councilor Leahy?
Thank you. Through you, the manager. Again, with the poles, I got an email again about the Methuen Street and 10th. So, you know, we keep approving these poles and poles aren't coming out. So these double poles need to start coming back out of the ground before we...
Any poles that should be removed, under the new JO agreement, Verizon is responsible for removing any poles that are in the field that have been transferred. Once complete transfer has taken place from all parties, Verizon is supposed to remove that pole.
All right, how do we speed up the process?
So perhaps Christine Clancy, we had a meeting on this. Christine, if you could address the double pole issue dealing with National Grid and Verizon.
Sure. So we did have a meeting. It was, I think, this winter, past fall, to talk about double poles. But we do need to have a follow-up meeting. So I've reached out to because it is really a joint effort, National Grid, Verizon, and even Comcast and anyone else on the poles. So we've reached out to Verizon and National Grid to coordinate a meeting to really look at this list and especially look at those poles, because there are some poles that have been on there for a long duration. So that is on our list. We hope to schedule a meeting really soon, the next couple weeks.
Okay, I have total faith in you, Christine. This gentleman and the people in the neighborhood of Methuen and 10th have been looking at this double pole for over 2 years. So.
I wrote that down, so that will come up on our list. Thanks. There was there's one pole that you did bring up, I think this past week, a pavement, and that was restored
yeah,
Monday.
I heard. Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else in favor? That portion is closed. Anyone who wants to speak in opposition? Opposition? That portion is closed. Any further discussion? I need a motion to refer to the wire inspector for report and recommendation by Councilor Mercia, second by Councilor Milanazzo. Thank you. Next, 5.6, National Grid Verizon West installation of geopole located in Manchester and Quebec Street. Open hearing in favor. We have to go through these.
Richard Jackson in favor. Again, this is needed for the Quebec station system reliability issue.
Anyone else in favor? Favor?
Again, Michelle Stacy, National Grid, I'm in favor.
Thank you. That portion is closed. Anyone in opposition? Opposition? That's closed. Any discussion? Need a motion to refer to the wire inspector for report.
So moved.
Council Milonazo, second by
Second.
Council Cirillo. Next, we have National Grid Verizon, New England, request installation of geopole located at Court Street. Open the hearing for those in favor. Favor?
Richard Jackson in favor.
Anyone else?
Michelle Stacy in
Procedure.
favor.
Procedure. Thank you. This portion is closed. Anyone wants to speak in opposition? Opposition? That portion is closed. Any discussion? Need a motion to recommend to refer to the wire inspector. Council Cirillo, second by Council Noon. Next, finally, we have National Grid Verizon, request installation of geopole at Lundberg Street. Open the hearing in favor.
Richard Jackson in favor.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Michelle Stacy in favor.
Thank you. Anyone who wants to speak in opposition? Opposition? That portion is closed. Any requests for information? I need a motion to refer to the wire inspector by
Seconded.
Council Elliott, second by Council Cirillo. Next, finally, we have a waveguard for external systems, request installation of a cell antenna at Pawtucket Street Bridge over Northern Canal Tiger Project. Open the hearing in favor. In favor, sir?
Again, Steve Janko with Waveguide. There is a small cellular antenna on the Northern Canal Bridge that needs to be relocated because the pole is being removed. At the request of the city, we were asked to move the equipment to a street light at the intersection of Father Morissette and Pawtucket Street. As of now, the equipment that is on the wooden pole is not going to be relocated. It is not needed for cell coverage at the moment. We would still like the grant of location to be approved so that we can run fiber to the street light for the city. As part of the franchise agreement that Extenet System has with the city, they have given them fiber to each of the nodes and each of the 40 some odd nodes in the city, and they would like to maintain fiber to the street light there at Pawtucket and Father Morissette.
All right, thank you. Anyone else want to speak in favor? Favor?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Claire Ricker, project manager. I'm speaking in favor.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. The portion is closed. Anyone wants to speak in opposition? Opposition? The portion is closed. Any discussion? All right, need a motion to refer to the wire inspector for
So moved.
Council Cirillo, second by Council Conway. Thank you. All right, we're now back to the communications of the city manager. Motion response, add to paving list. Council Cirillo?
Hi, yes, thank you. I'm glad that we are looking into this and very well could be paved eventually. And also for the Western Avenue, I'm very glad that we're going to patch Western Avenue. I think that's a good start. This is a good start. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Council Leahy?
Thank you. Through you to the manager. Western Ave, that seems to be, it's a busy new district now with Navigational Brewery and Western Ave Artist Loft. So I really feel that that needs to be bumped up somehow, until I can try to get the railroad tracks open, because they've been working on that. We need to really dress that up and help that district out. They're part of the business district now, and they really need to, if there's any way we can find some funds over there to fix that street up, encourage more people to go down there and use the businesses, that would be helpful. And one other thing with Mill Street, again, that street's not that bad, but it's got a couple of divots in it, sort of like what I described on Boylston Street. So if we can try to address those in this paving season, I know the engineers here. You know the spots I mentioned on Boylston Street, we have those 3 dips?
Sure, yes.
Something like that over on Mill Street too.
Okay,
You know what
I'll
I mean? So
look
those
at-
can be
we'll look at
patched,
that.
then the street's good, so.
As far as an overall mill and overlay,
Yeah,
or
we don't need that.
we don't need that, but
No,
this is a
but you
patch.
just need to fix those sinkholes.
We can look at that either through streets or through our miscellaneous paving contract.
Yep.
And as far as Western Ave, I think we can look at it in the horizon. It's just it's hard to place that project right now in what we've been planning to date, given the proximity, also the railroad ties, if they're in the street, that it does add some cost or some difficult construction. But we can look at it. It's just right now it's not in our horizon.
Well, I know it's not in the horizon, but, you know, with all due respect, again, we need to try to do something over there. There's businesses that, you know, could use our help, and they could really, you know, prosper from this, so.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Further discussion? Thank you. Next, we have motion response, National Grid Safety. Councilman Mercia.
The report was welcoming. I gave it to the gentleman that had the device, that safety valve, and it just concerns me in this paragraph that says that they have safety relief valves and alarms throughout their system. I'm concerned about the customer's system, and I don't see that in my home, because when you have a fire alarm, when you have any smoke, it goes off. When you have one of those other type of alarms for, I can't think of the word there, but that goes off as well.
Carbon monoxide or...
Carbon monoxide, and that goes off. But when you have a gas leak, you don't hear an alarm, and you can't leave the house. I mean, because you don't know, but it was okay, and we did get a response, and I'm grateful for the response. Thank you.
And Madam Manager, I had requested a meeting with National Grid to talk about gas safety, but there was an indication because of Homeland Security rulings that only city officials can.
Yes, they did come into City Hall. We had that meeting. Christine Clancy had arranged it. We had a number of city officials, including police, fire, engineering, planning. There is some concern now over Homeland Security in terms of the exact detail of their system. Perhaps the engineer can address this. So they did provide us with a full information and briefing, but they had a Homeland Security issue concerns about doing this in a public forum. We did bring, Mr. Mayor, the request through your motion to them. And so, as I said, every department has been briefed on all of their systems, where they're located, what needs to be done in case of emergency, but they declined to do it in a public hearing.
Yeah, but that's good to know. Thank you.
Sure, I can add to that just a little bit. So as the manager said, this was a closed meeting, and they went over where there are regulator pits, because those act as fail-safes, or those safety measures that if there was a leak, that would be detected, or and also protecting customers at these regulator pits. As far as those locations, that was disclosed in the meeting, but that's something that's not available to the greater public. But I think in general, it was a great meeting, because we went over the understanding how their system operates, and also looking also, because there's this how the system operates, but also there's a lot of aged infrastructure. So they also went into great detail about how much of their system is cast iron, how they plan to replace it in the coming years, and some of their proposed projects. And then also just from the police and fire emergency aspect, that what's their protocol if there is an emergency. So it was a very, I think, a great meeting.
Thank you for that. Councilor Noon.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I know, Madam Manager, you indicated that you attend the meeting with other elected officials, include the mayor, with regard to safety around the alarm and or prevention. How assured were you after you came out of that meeting with the National Grid representative?
I think they did provide both the city and our professional engineers and public safety with assurances. Obviously, the uppermost in everybody's mind, following the Columbia Gas disaster in Lawrence. That's something that we also discussed with them, and what, if any, possibility there was here in the city, as well as other security measures, whether it be any kind of potential terrorism or not. So, Christina, but I felt, and our whole team felt very, comfortable, and thought that they were very forthcoming. They brought their whole team in who had expertise in every area. So this was a lengthy meeting, and one that they brought maps, they showed us everything in terms of their system. They were not holding back on any information.
Sure.
Go ahead.
If I could just add to that, we did go over the Columbia Gas incident, and they did explain how that incident would not happen in the city of Lowell. The way their system is set up and different from what happened in that incident, and really how their system acts in a series, and so they're in series, whereas the incident that happened in Lawrence was in parallel. So someone overpressurized something, and that impacted a line adjacent to it. Whereas this system is set up that could not happen, because they'd be making one point of connection as opposed to multiple points of connection.
Clear, when you indicated that there's H-gas infrastructure, some of the old ones, did they share with you and or the managers in terms of the percentage of the H-gas infrastructures and plans to address it?
It is in the report, and so there's different, in the report that I provided, there's different materials of gas. There's steel main, there's cast iron main, and then what they're installing typically today is plastic. What they're focused right now is the aged steel and cast iron mains, and so that's made up there's about 55 miles of that in the city, and that is about 25% of their overall network. They historically have replaced about 4 to 6 miles a year. This year they're trying to replace 9 miles a year. So, I mean, if you do the 9 miles over 55, so it is a long project, but they're trying to more aggressively replace this cast iron or aged steel main to eliminate it and put in new infrastructure.
Thank you, Madam Manager. Thank you, Kristen.
Okay, thank you very much. Next, motion response, traffic calming issues. We have Councilor Elliott, Councilor Noon, Councilor Cirillo, Councilor Leahy. Anyone wants to speak? Councilor Leahy?
Thank you. I thought this was a good report. It's a new way of looking at things with this whole new concept and the application. So I think it's a big step in the right direction. And I appreciate the effort that's being put into it. Thank you.
Councilor Elliott?
Yeah, I agree. I think there's a lot here. I would like to make a motion to refer this to the Transportation Subcommittee.
Okay.
Second it.
Okay, Councilor, thank you. All set.
I think it's important also, Mr. Mayor, we have a map on our desk tonight just to let folks know, again, the extent of funding that we've received from Department of Transportation, Mass Highway. There are 14 projects going on in the city, so as we've been talking about for months, there are going to be some challenges and detours, but it's for the better good, and the magnitude of state funding that we have is significant. So I know the city is doing a great job in getting the information out with signage, but there'll be some complications. Anything else, Madam?
I think you put it well. We speak regularly about this in terms of not only updating but making sure the public knows as soon as we know, not just from our end, but we're trying to reach out to other projects so we're up to date as to what's going to be happening. And I think we're just going to try and double down and get that information out in a timely fashion for residents, for motorists, so that people can have access to it and plan their routes or plan their day.
Right, and as some bridges are being closed, some are open. Lawrence Street is open.
So we are
Street's
seeing
open.
progress. And the next couple of years, once some of these bigger projects are completed, then it's going to be that much better getting around the city.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor Cirillo?
Hi, yes, thank you. This is a great report. I would like to have, if it's okay, Natasha, to come up and explain that there is going to be, documents available to the city, and just so that you can have the residents who are watching know and understand what the response was and what we are doing as a city. Thank you.
Sure, thank you. Natasha Vance, Transportation Engineer. Essentially, I get a lot of requests for four-way stop signs, or just complaints about cut-through traffic, people speeding throughout the city, both from residents as well as sometimes from councilors, and sometimes their motions. And in essence, the thing that all of those have in common is that the streets ideally need some traffic calming. At home, you would know those things to be things like speed humps or raised speed tables, chicanes, which are artificial curves that we can install on roads, separated bike lanes, separated multi-use paths. And we can do those things in in almost a temporary manner with striping and planters and flex posts, and to kind of try them out in a pilot program. And then if they turn out to be something that's successful, working well, we can move to a more permanent measure like concrete curbing with plantings. The idea behind this policy would be for residents to identify their street and say, we have an issue here. There will be a form online once the policy is fully developed. So this is a draft policy. We'll discuss it further at the Transportation Subcommittee meeting. And we'll put out notices on the website and via email if people want to come and provide input at the Transportation Subcommittee meeting. But the idea would be that they would fill out the form, identify what the problems were, and get their neighbors on board for traffic calming devices. And then we can try to identify a funding source and try to improve the situation around the city. So that's sort of the policy in a nutshell.
Thank you.
All set?
Yeah.
Councilor Mercia?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Natasha. We more or less had a calming, neighborhood calming traffic situation on La Plume Avenue. Are you aware of that?
I don't think so.
Well, there was a motion that I made a couple of weeks ago when I had Deb Belanger it involved Barbara Street and La Plume Avenue, and how we needed your expert advice to...
Oh, okay. I think I have not responded to that motion yet, Councilor Mercier.
And on the agenda tonight, we do have a situation where four of us went to a neighborhood meeting on River Walkway down across from the Spinner Stadium, and they had a concern, and you'll see it later on if you're still here, about traffic calming when there's different events taking place, and how can we notify people. So
that was the Aikens and Perkins Street.
Yeah,
yes, I did see that.
Yeah, so I just wanted you to be aware of it.
Okay, thank you. Yeah.
All set? We're all set? Thank you. Next, we go to ride-sharing pickup zone. Councilor Elliott?
Thank you. This is a good report. I know the chief was aware of it when I filed it, but the good news is that people are ride-sharing when they're downtown and they're not driving if they've, had alcohol to consume. So I like the geo-fence. I like the location. We, enforcing it, I think by virtue of Lyft and Uber going to one central location will work, but I think there's been significant traffic congestion, and this will alleviate that downtown, and we'll imagine there's even traffic jams late in the evening downtown, which is a good thing. But thanks for the report. I think it's a good solution.
Yeah, if I can, Natasha is still up. I want to credit the traffic engineer for making connections with Uber and Lyft. It wasn't the easiest lift, no pun intended, but to try and get them on board. But they are on board, and this goes live this week.
Yeah, that was all I wanted to add is it'll be live in their apps June 27th. And they were very cooperative once I was able to actually get a contact. So, yeah.
Yeah. And
So just for folks at home, when they go to, correct me if I'm wrong, but if you have the Uber Lyft app, you open it and it'll tell you the location where.
And it'll give you walking directions. So essentially, for the people at home, at the intersections of Palmer and Middle on the weekend nights, there were both crowds of people and traffic congestion due to Uber and Lyft pickups when the bars and restaurants were at the end of the night. The police had some concerns about public safety, and so we have designated 4 pickup and drop-off locations that are all kind of equidistant. When they open the app, they'll get walking directions to the closest one, and we will be putting up a sign to say this is where you will where you will be picked up for Uber or Lyft.
Yeah, in a less congested way, and it's something that Natasha worked with the police department, and they were pleased with eliminating some possible trouble spots.
And it is a pilot program. We'll do it for 60 days, and if for some reason it doesn't seem to be alleviating it, we'll reevaluate. But I think it's going to be a good program.
I agree. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All set? Okay, next we have 15-minute parking, Middlesex Street. Council Cirillo?
Yes, no, thank you. I'm glad to see that the 60-day trial is on for the 15-minute parking, so thank you.
Next we have the Clemente Baseball Field update. Councilor Noon?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I like the report, but I'm just, it's more like a step back. Maybe I can ask Diane. Diane's here about the report.
I think I can understand your frustration, Counselor. When we were first asked to work on this project, DPW had already looked at the lighting last year, and I think there was a council motion, and it was quoted at $279,000 to replace the lights. So we hired an electrical consultant at the request of Steve Kuchu, city engineer, and they went out and looked at it, and the lighting, the whole system was in bad shape. So now it's not just replacing poles and lights. We have to have new service with National Grid brought in throughout the whole site in order to do the project at all. So while we were looking at just doing the Clemente lights, there are 2 other softball fields there. There's a concession stand and scoreboard desired in the future. So we're looking at this in a very holistic manner. So we are in the process of getting a survey, which is required by National Grid before going forward with any feasibility study on their part. Then we'll have an electrical engineer design the system. And then we'll look for the funds to pay for it. We did reach out to the state to see if a park grant would cover the cost for this park, and unfortunately, they do not cover any open space parks, anything that has any overhead power lines. And we do have overhead lines there to the Bartlett School. So what started as a pretty small, manageable project has now gotten much bigger. So I do understand your frustration with that. We're trying very hard to move this along.
Yeah, I know that we talk about Clemente, baseball Clemente field. Now we have to do, now I understand why you talk about a need of having a site survey or a surveyor to come in, because now we're going to do the whole park, not just Roberto Clemente baseball field, but the whole park, the Kuhlman Zellers Park.
Right. But we need a new system, we need new service, even just to do the lights at Clemente Field. We would have to put new service in the whole way, and it wouldn't be covered with a park grant either. So while we were looking at that, we looked at all the other elements there, because that was noted in our open space plan. But we can't just do Clemente. The service is not there for that.
So the project that was hoping to get started this summer for Roberto Clemente Field, it's not going to happen. Is that what you said to me this summer?
Basically, yes.
I know that a lot of kids out there, the Roberto Clemente baseball member and team and kid that play in that field are let down by this report. Really is. I know it's not your fault. Frustrated, that's all I can say.
Mm-hmm.
It was hope, because we said it to them, to Roberto Clemente Baseball Committee, and Marie's here, or she probably, she sat back there. She heard it now. Disappointed, really. I know it's not your fault, Diane, and or you know. But if there's any way we can look for fun to do this, because it's for, now it's not just Roberto Clemente baseball kid who play there, but all the other kids that use Kumazelas Park can benefit from this, and it's really benefit the city as a whole if we take care of that. So please do something about it.
Yeah.
You know, thanks.
Yeah.
Councilor Leahy, you all set? Councilor Leahy, then Councilor Milonazo.
Thank you. Through you to the manager and Diane Tratt, it seems kind of funny that when I spoke to some National Grid officials, they told me how much they donate to the city and to the Massachusetts, but they don't do this. And she made a point to tell me how much money and how much they do volunteer work, and they do a lot of community work, yet they won't come in and put a pole in for you, which literally takes them about a half hour to just drill the hole, drop the poles in. So I don't know if there's any way we can take a look at that, but you know, it's just kind of funny. This is what we need, yet they want to give us some freebies of things that, you know. So it's just a comment, you know what I mean?
They may actually do that, but before they'll even look at it, we have to have a survey of the whole.
No, I know, but I talked to them about
So they
it.
might.
They're aware of the situation, but
Right.
they basically told me, you know, we'll do other things for you, but we can't do something that you really need.
Well,
So just kind
We'll
of funny.
see. I mean, I think the point is to get, you know, to get the survey done, to bring the service into the park, and then we're going to continue to look
Right.
everywhere for whether it's in-kind services or
Yeah.
other ways
Yeah.
to get it done.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We did have 3 different electrical contractors out there because we thought the same thing. Why can't we just put the new poles and lights in? And actually, Claire Ricker is, or was, an electrician. I don't know, you must still be licensed. And she went out several times and met with them because we wanted to be sure we were giving you the right information, and we looked at the possibility of, you know, any kind of temporary system, but it really can't be broken down like that. We need to
Right.
do it and do it right.
Oh, yeah, no, I know. A lot of people didn't realize that the poles were, you know, they're not in good shape.
Right.
They're safe for now, but they're not good enough to put new lighting on. So,
Right.
Right.
Thank you.
Councilor Milonazo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The report is a good report, although as Councilor Noon said, it's somewhat disappointing, although it's certainly factual. But there are companies now, and whether or not we've actually done this, but there are solar lighting systems for parks and playgrounds. You can, again, just Google that and come up with a list of companies that actually do that. And, you know, maybe this would be an opportunity to work with a solar company to even do a prototype, because even though we're 13.5 square miles, we have a boatload of parks. So whether or not that's something that we can, through the manager's office, reach out to solar lighting companies that do parks and playgrounds. Thank you.
We'll certainly look into it.
Thank you. Councilor Kennedy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to the city manager. Just on a more upbeat note, I recently, over the weekend, had an opportunity to go to Alumni Field, which hosted a statewide tournament this weekend. And the reason it hosted the statewide tournament is because it's recognized by just about everybody in the Commonwealth to be the best field. In recent years, the best field in the Commonwealth. In recent years, a lot of money was spent by the city to upgrade that field. The field is in A1 condition. The fence around it is in A1 condition, and so is the new scoreboard. So it's really looking good. The one drawback is when you drive by it, the buildings don't look that good. So there are 3 buildings there. 2 of them are left over from when the Spinners played there. So there is one building that's a locker room building. There's one room that is a concession stand, a rather large concession stand, and also there are 2 restrooms there. And I think that actually the inside of those buildings looks better than the outside of those buildings, but I'm not asking that they be changed, but they could be cosmetically updated so that it would make the whole facility a lot more attractive than it looks from the street right now. So the field and the baseball part itself, the component, is in great shape, but those buildings are not. And I can't think that it would be that much money, and it seems to me that it would be something that the city would be able to do over the summer, just to renovate those buildings and get them in shape. And again, the inside of the buildings, I think, is a lot better shape than the outside. The reason that Alumni Field is important to me is because there is a lot of people that come in from other communities for baseball games there. And for some of those people, it is the only it's the only opportunity that they have to get a sense of what Lowell's like. And so I think it's really important that be a showcase as much as it can. The other thing that I noticed is also the street that goes along Alumni Field has a lot of litter. So that needs to be cleaned up as well. But as long as we're talking about baseball fields, I thought I would just bring that up as a possible summer project. Thank you.
Councilor Cirillo, then Councilor Mercia, then Councilor Conway.
Hi, yes, I would like to piggyback on Councilor Milanazzo's suggestion, because I feel that the solar companies would probably jump at the chance at lighting our fields. I think that would be a great opportunity for them to show off, actually. So I think that was a fantastic idea. Thank you.
Councilor Mercia, and then Councilor Conway, Councilor Elliott.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Diane, what would the survey cost? We have an idea about that?
It's not a lot of money, and we have quotes now, so we can go forward with that. We're proceeding as if this is going to happen, and we're going to continue looking for funds.
Because I still have faith that there's people out there that would be willing to offer their services, and we do a lot for National Grid, and they come here and they ask. I think maybe they would reciprocate, and I know that when they were doing the fields in the Highlands, the company gave poles to the city, and some of the people that were involved with the Little League, they happen to work for the electric light company, and they did install the work there. It wasn't the company, but these were employees of the company that were involved with the Little League as well. Bernie Judge, and Nancy Judge's husband, he was involved with that. He got the poles there. They did the wiring. I bet there's people that would want to do that. So if we could get the survey going, then we could have an idea about what we're looking for.
We will look into some other things, the solar, and actually Catherine Moses, our energy manager, told me there's a new program that will work on these kinds of things, lighting in public spaces. So we're going to really look into this. We also did look at, because we knew how important this project was, temporary lighting with generators, and the cost was prohibitive. I think it was over $100,000. So.
And then that solar energy is a good idea as well. So, Maria, don't give up yet. Okay, good. Thank you.
Councilor, you all said, Councilor Conway.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think this, if Diane Tradd could answer this question. I certainly agree with Senator Kennedy when he talked about the baseball field at Alumni Field. I think it's extremely important that that's kept up, because there are a lot of tournaments that attracts people from all over New England, and it is a great field, and I think we need to continue to keep that up. The question I have is, who would maintain, or who would take care of the repairs at the field? Do you know?
At Alumni or at Clemente?
At Alumni.
I think it would be the Parks Department, and also the baseball group that's there, the Alumni Association. I think they do some of the maintenance as well. I'm not sure.
I think, Council, I think it would be, it's city property. It would be DPW or Parks who maintain the field, but
Right.
DPW.
And I'm asking that question for a reason, because I know that last year a few of the coaches asked me to come out and take a look at Alumni at the football field, and there were a couple buildings there, and they're quite old, and they are unbelievable inside. And kids really shouldn't be there. And the coaches have told me that people have come in to repair that inside, and they do the walls, they do the ceiling, and so forth. But as a couple of the coaches said, we've told them a number of times, you have to fix the roof. And within a matter of a couple of weeks, they're right back to the same situation. It's a waste of time and it's a waste of money. So that's why I think we have to be very cognizant of, making sure that there is definitely a plan there to fix this up, and that we're not wasting our time and spinning our wheels on that. Thank you.
Councilor Elliott.
No, I think it's a good idea to look at solar for those lights, but I think service will still need to be brought in, because the Little League organization, they're looking to build a concession stand, and they need bathrooms down there. If you have tournaments for both the Little League and the softball fields. So my question was, why won't National Grid just do the survey? Don't they know if we want lights and a bathroom, the concession stand? Is it that complex? Or
It's not their
I'll ask
policy.
the electrician.
Yeah, it's not their policy. Once you give them the survey, then they look at it. And that's what all the electrical consultants told us too. We have to do the survey first before they'll even look at it.
I don't get it. From building a house, they're going to tell you what service you need, but okay. Well, I'm glad we're moving forward on it.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it's one of these infrastructure things that
It's become much more complicated the more we've dug into it, but
we're staying on
we're
it.
proceeding.
Thank you.
All set. Councilor Leahy.
Thank you. Just very quickly, through you to the manager, the alumni field, we do, I don't know if we still do, but, we rent out that parking lot in the winter, and I didn't know if we were directing those funds towards that field when Commissioner Belgar was here. It's just something to take a look at. We thought maybe we were going to earmark that money for that area, so just take a look at that.
Okay, all set. Okay, thank you. Next, we have citywide traffic plan over the next 5 years. Councilor Leahy.
Thank you. Who's ever coming up to the mic? I just had a couple of questions. Basically what I was, looking for, I didn't know if we had any more information. It's a good report, but what I was looking for is there any way we can speed up any of these projects? Any way we can really try to add to the management plan? Central Street just looks like it's going really slow, and that's a 2-year project, right?
Yeah, I mean, we have there's an issue at Central Street right now regarding trying to dewater the canals. We're having some problems. The contractor is having some problems. And we're trying to work through that with Enel and National Parks, and with the Tiger Bridges. I don't know if Claire is still here, but it's a really complex situation because it's MassDOT and National Parks and Enel and us. So yes, right now that project is a little delayed, and we're working on that. In terms of speeding some projects up, certainly we are. The MassDOT projects, we don't really have any control over their schedule. One of the takeaways from this that I hope came through is that this next year we have a lot of projects, but the following year a number of them will be completed. When the Lord Overpass starts, one of the first things they're going to do is build the Jackson Street extension, so you'll be a right onto Jackson Street off Thorndike and a right onto Thorndike heading toward downtown, and that will be like a little release valve for traffic that's coming up Central Street going to the Central Street Bridge. We will certainly work with the contractors and ask them to hurry every chance they get and see if there are ways that they can speed up their construction schedules. I'm hopeful that with the Lord Overpass, when the bids come in, that the contractor will have a slightly different phasing plan that might be a little more accelerated. I think there's some opportunity for that. And certainly we will talk to the Tiger Bridge contractors about anything that they can speed up. But like as Councilor Elliott mentioned, the Lawrence Street Bridge is done, the Market Street Bridge is done, Merrimack over Western will be done shortly. Like there are a lot of projects that are going to finish up. Some of the projects that are starting, like the garage project, will not have an impact to traffic the way some of these other projects do. It'll literally be a few minutes as the big panels are coming in where traffic will be stopped to get them through the intersection because the trucks are 85 feet long. But so I guess my answer is yes, we'll do whatever we can to speed them up, but we're kind of at the mercy of the construction conditions and the planned construction schedule. And, certainly contractors would love to finish earlier, but there's only so much they can do with the conditions that we have in the city.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is it all the same to them if they work 8-hour days versus 12-hour days to speed up?
I think it really depends. I mean, if they're working overnight or on weekends, they're going to be paying a premium to their workers. If they originally bid their project assuming night work and weekend work, then it wouldn't impact the cost. But it's unlikely if they bid it assuming normal working hours, it's unlikely that they would change their working hours without a change order coming to the city.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Sure.
Councilor Mercia?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Natasha, where it says Route 133, Andover Street, and River Road, MassDOT, isn't that Tewksbury?
So a portion of the project is in Lowell.
Oh, it is?
The majority of it is in Tewksbury.
Oh,
yes.
all right.
Yeah, but it will slightly. They're going to put a traffic signal at that intersection.
Yes.
And there will be a bike lane that extends, and there's some curb and intersection improvements. So it'll have a slight impact.
We don't know when that's going to start, do we?
I believe we're at 75% design plans.
Hi, we're at 75% design. I believe it's next, I'm not sure if it's next spring or next summer, but it's planned for hopefully next year. It is on the tip, so there is funding now, and so it is becoming a real project.
I didn't realize any of that was Lowell. I did not realize.
It's a short section, but it does go into Lowell.
Oh.
Yeah, it's a very small piece, and it kind of hasn't been on our radar until we got my radar until I got the 75%.
Because I thought it was odd that Tewksbury would pave 133 and stop at a certain spot.
Yeah.
And the worst part of all, they
Oh, yeah.
left undone, but that's because they have lights there and stuff. Okay.
Yeah, that section is really terrible. It's
Yes,
potholes
it is.
and, yeah,
It is.
but I think they didn't do it, and I'm
That
making
reason.
an assumption, but that because that
Yeah,
project was
that's
coming.
right.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Councilor Conway?
I think my question has been answered as far as that stretch there that people have told me, and of course I go by it all the time. It's terrible.
It's atrocious,
It really
yeah.
is. And you're telling me that it won't be for, another a year before
Yeah.
it's taken care of? Is there any way we could reach out? Is it Tewksbury, actually?
Yeah, we can talk to Ralph Snow, and perhaps he can talk to his counterpart in Tewksbury and ask them to patch it, because I drive through there frequently, and it is in bad shape.
I don't understand why they stopped at that. It was only another, 30 yards or so, or 40 yards, but it really does make a difference.
Yeah.
But anyways, thank you very much.
Sure.
All right. Thank you. Next, we have bus shelter. I want to thank you for that report, Madam Manager. The issue is that many of the seniors, there are seniors who need to take the bus, and there is no room on the sidewalk out in front of the senior center, but there's a possibility of acquiring some land, private land.
That is correct. It won't fit currently because of the required dimensions of the shelter. So as was mentioned in the report, there's a possibility, once the city owns the senior center, of utilizing some parking spaces. Since this report was written, however, the current owner of the senior center has spoken with the city and is willing to work with the city. So it's ongoing. So we will see if it can be done sooner than next year. But we've looked on both sides of the street. I know Diane Trad's been out, Ralph Snow's been out several times trying to figure out a place that there could be a shelter on either side of the street. And It just wasn't obvious, and so because of the required dimension, but there's still a possibility. It would mean perhaps losing a couple of parking spaces in order to accommodate it in the parking lot, so.
Well, thank you for the effort. Councilor Mercia.
That's what I was going to say. If we put it on the property, we'd lose a couple of parking spaces. Wouldn't it be nice if we could utilize the expert handiwork of the Greater Lowell Voc, and they could perhaps build one on the sidewalk so that people could still walk by? Because they're rather large.
They did look for that, but the dimensions, and Diane can speak to it, it wouldn't allow it on the sidewalk and to have passability. Diane, they looked at every inch out there to try and find it.
Yeah, we looked everywhere to see if we could meet the ADA requirements, and there really was no place. And where there might have been a tight spot, the grade goes up to the parking lot, and then that would create an ADA issue as well. So.
Yeah, I know the like one there. We brought this up some time ago too.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have business attraction. Councilor Conway.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Diane. First of all, I want to thank you. Thank you for the report. I appreciate that. It's, as we all know, it's an ongoing problem and a situation is trying to, how do we improve economic development? And you know, it's if you take a ride downtown, and again, I know that people are trying hard. I know that they're utilizing, should we say, all the tricks in that bag to make this thing work. I think we realize that. So I'm not criticizing anybody at all. I want to make that perfectly clear. You know, having said that, we've had over the years, you know, the ebbs and tides of the economy here in Lowell. And I mean, I can remember going back when I was in high school and you walk down the street of Merrimack Street and you see so many different storefronts that are closed. Mm-hmm. And it's a kind of a sad situation. We've turned that around, but we've also gone back and forth. And when I take a look downtown now, and you know, you don't really see it when you're driving, but when you're walking, that's when you see it. And there are a lot of storefronts that are vacant. And especially as somebody said to me, a very wise person said to me, look up on the second and third floor. Take a look up there. And there's a lot of vacancies around the city in that. So that's why, having said that, that's why I put this motion on. And again, I appreciate everything you're doing here. And I think it's important that we do have that meeting. Do you have you actually come up with a specific agenda for that meeting?
I'm going to let Andrew Shapiro, our Economic Development Director, speak to that. I know he's put a lot of time into thinking this through, and he may have already put something together. Andrew.
Thank you.
And the upper floors, I just want to say, I've been working here for a long time, and it is really a problem, especially in most gateway cities. These upper floors are very, very hard to market, and we're working very hard to try to get something going.
Somebody told me that they weren't necessarily up to code. Is that one of the issues, one of the problems
and
too?
to bring them up to code is very expensive because of the elevators and the different things.
So why would they not be brought up to code? In other words, if I owned a piece of property up there, I mean, it's no sense in leaving it dormant. I would think I'd want to bring it up to code so that I could get some type of return on that piece of property.
It does make sense when we have spoken to many developers, and the cost is prohibitive. It's a lot of money. I'm going to let Eric Slagle speak to the code issues and maybe some of the conflicts that they have.
Sure. No, it's a question that's come up ever since I've been in this position. It's just a math problem. You have to be able to make enough more on your rent to avoid the upgrades than you're getting on the write-off for having a vacant space. And most of the property owners are not in a position where they can afford to run in the red because the upgrades are going to cost more than they could ever possibly make back in rent.
So in other words, it's just going to stay vacant?
I mean, I think that's more of a question for Andrew, but I think that it's a matter of the market changing and becoming more, like you see in the housing market, there are houses that were dilapidated and weren't being fixed because the market was at a certain level. As the market got better, it became profitable.
Yeah, I mean, the point is, I'm wondering, what could we do with those properties to still be able to utilize them?
So I just want to, back up what Diane and Eric were saying about the complexity of the situation and it being somewhat of a math problem, the fact that the amount of money it takes to rehab some of these properties, what you'd have to get in a return on investment is just not realistic in many cases, and what you'd be able to command in rents throughout the city. The efforts that we're undertaking with respect to seeing these properties get rehabilitated is work with our partners like the Lowell Development and Financial Corporation and others to have conversations with other developers, current property owners, about ways that we can help to support their projects through financing mechanisms and through being able to identify potential tenants that can occupy either ground floors or upper floors. One thing that we're seeing happen is there are many developers that are coming in that see the upper floors that are currently slated for commercial use, and they may see more viability in converting those spaces to residential uses. And that's just the way the market is right now. The market for residential properties in this area is far more favorable than it is for commercial office. So you may see some of that in the near future. We've had conversations recently with at least one property owner along Merrimack Street that owns a commercial building with ground floor commercial, and they're interested in doing some rehabilitation of their upper floors. It's not clear what direction they want to go yet, if they want to extend commercial uses upstairs or if they want to convert it to residential, but we're having those conversations, and my office is very tuned into being able to connect them to resources that will help them get those projects done.
Would you need a code change on that for residential?
It's not a matter of no. In the downtown, residential multifamily is allowed by right.
Right, and I think that again, as long as we get something in there, it certainly is better than having a vacant area there. As far as the meeting is concerned, which I think is a great idea, you were going to elaborate a little bit on that on the meeting?
Yeah, only to say that we don't have a set agenda quite yet, but I'm working on that. I'll distribute it, and we'll make sure you get a copy as well, and the City Council is welcome to have a copy as well. I'll make sure it's distributed so you all know what we'll be discussing.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Sure.
And one more question for Diane. Could you... Looking at all the bullet points that you have, and again, you're covering quite a bit. Could you tell me what we're doing this year, should we say, this versus last year or the year before? Is there anything different that has been done, or unique, or unusual that could help us bring in? In other words, the point I'm trying to make here is if we stick to year after year after year doing the exact same thing, then I would rather take some crazy idea, put it on the table, put 100 of them on the table. If 99 of them don't work, that's fine. But if that one does, it can make a difference. And I think that's what we have to do is encourage people to come up with those unique ideas that can maybe make a bit of a difference. So as far as this is concerned, is there anything different that you've been doing this year that you didn't do last year or the year before and so forth?
One of the things that we've been doing is researching different funding opportunities. And there are some floating out there that we're trying to finalize. We also have some economic development earmark funds that are going to be put to use. And Andrew can speak to some of these things, but it is really the money is the problem. So the best thing we can do is try to find some sources for funding that can kind of close the gap for these developers.
Right. Thank you.
Just want to echo and piggyback on Diane's comments. I appreciate the concern, Councilor, and I just want to say I completely agree. Doing the same thing over and over again is not really going to get us anywhere. And so we did have a robust conversation just before this meeting in the Economic Development Subcommittee. One thing that was brought up is a new program that's been developed by Mass Office of Business Development. Typically, they work with larger employers by providing tax incentives for job creation. They have recently developed a new program to target vacant storefronts across the Commonwealth, and they're doing that by being able to provide tax credits up to $10,000 to businesses that occupy storefronts that have been vacant for at least 12 months. And it requires the city to participate by developing a geographic area where businesses that locate in that area would be eligible. And so we did establish that area, basically encompassing most or all of our downtown. And we went before the governing body that makes these decisions on approving these things. They're called the Economic Assistance Coordinating Council, the EACC. We went before them about 2 weeks ago to present our zone that we want to use for this program, and they're looking at it, and they'll be voting on it in September. So we hope to be able to utilize that program to fill vacant storefronts. And the other thing we're doing on the front of larger employers is we're just trying to get in front of different and more diverse audiences. And one example of that, we participated in a very interesting conference not long ago, an International Investment Summit that was hosted by the Israeli Consulate, the New England Israeli Business Council, and China Merchants Bank. The city manager, along with representatives of Kronos and UMass Lowell, sat on a panel that was exclusively dedicated to business and issues going on in Lowell. And this was in an audience in front of folks that are in the international investment community, people from China, businesses from Israel. Israel alone has 200 companies that have come to the Commonwealth of Massachusetts to locate in the Boston area alone. And so the thought process there being, if we can get an audience with those folks and say, if you're looking at establishing a headquarters in North America or in the Boston area, Lowell should definitely be on your radar screen. And so we've made efforts to branch out to those types of audiences, and we'll continue to do so going forward as well.
I think that's great. That's a fantastic idea, and we just have to zero in and get the contact person for these different places. That's going to be paramount. But again, thank you very much.
Sure.
And just one last question: is this meeting open to the public?
It is not tabbed as a public meeting at this point. The thought being we wanted to have kind of an intimate conversation among local stakeholders, given sort of the strategic thinking behind this. We're happy to make notes about the meeting public, if that's agreeable with folks. I mean, I don't think there's anything to hide. It's just a matter of trying to have an intimate meeting among some of the, primary business development stakeholders in the city.
All right. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Kennedy?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to point out that there are some buildings in downtown that are used, the upper floors are used and utilized with very low vacancy. And what comes to mind is the cluster of buildings that would run along John Street between Page and Merrimack, which would include the old Fannie Farmers, as well as the old Union National Bank building, which is now a Asian restaurant. Those buildings, the upper floors of those buildings, have commercial office uses, and my recollection or my impression is that the vacancy factor there is very, very low. I think also another building would be the Howe building at the corner of Prescott and East Merrimack Street is one that has where the upper floors are utilized. I think the building's owned by someone that occupies the fourth floor and maybe the third floor as well. There are other buildings downtown where they have been converted to residential, but I think part of the problem is that we still have some property owners in the downtown that choose to do nothing with their properties and just leave them alone and are perfectly satisfied, probably because of their financial situation, with just renting out the first floor and whatever they can get on the upper floors, that's it. And I think probably the most glaring example of that would have to be the Hildreth building, right at the foot of Central Street. That's a very large block and one where the upper floors are underutilized, and that's a building that really needs a lot of work. It's one, it's a significant building downtown, and one where really no renovation has taken place there, I think, for many, many years. And at some point, the city's going to have to address that or get that owner to address that situation, because that's a significant building downtown. Thank you.
Well said. All right, thank you. Madam Manager?
I just want to comment, I want to credit Andrew and Shapiro and DPD for coming up with new ways of really showcasing Lowell. The event put on by Mass Office of International Travel and Investment with the Israeli consulate was a great example. He was able to get us in front of this large audience through MIT, and Lowell was the only city showcased. And between Kronos and the university and the city, I think it gave us, and we had made some pretty good contacts that morning. Also, the city participated in a local leaders conference through Salem 5 and the Boston Business Journal, which was put forward. We recorded it right here at the mayor's reception room together with some of the successful startup companies that the incubator companies have, one in particular, Invisaware, that has now moved into the next growth stage where they have office space here in Lowell. A great company that's doing gangbusters of young people out of the university. And this was a webinar that was put out live, and then Boston Business Journal featured Lowell the following week, and we've gotten great feedback from that. So, and there's, it seems every other week, Andrew's out there coming up with other ways to showcase Lowell. And so I just want to credit him for doing a great job in planning and development, for really being out there and shaking things up.
All right, thank you. Next, we have lighting along the river and Canalway. Councilor Cirillo.
Hi, yes, thank you for the report. It's a great report, and I think that the Riverwalk is one of Lowell's vibrant attractions that we need to be talking about and making sure it's safe. So I was really pleased to read that the DPD and DPW are arranging a joint walkthrough audit and inviting the neighbors of the Riverwalk. So I would, since this is such an important area for Lowell, I would like for, is Chris here, that he can come up
Chris
and explain?
Hayes is here too.
Thank you. So if you could just come up and explain the report response so that the people who are watching know. Thank you.
Certainly. Thank you, Councilor. Chris Hayes, Neighborhood Planner. The Riverwalk is definitely a partnership project between the city, UMass Lowell National Park. We all own little pieces of it. So even zoning in on the, focusing in on the lighting, that is something that is mostly owned by the city, but also operated by UMass Lowell. And the other thing we recognize is that the lighting is an important component of the feeling of safety on the Riverwalk, but there's a lot of other components as well. There is managing the vegetation, managing graffiti, looking at other events, looking at the activity on the Riverwalk. So that's why, first of all, very soon in early July, we'll be having a meeting with many of the departments in the city, including Lowell Police Department, DPW, I have it all. The health department and the manager's office as well. So we're all getting together to discuss all of these issues as a whole. Then we will have a walkthrough like the councilor mentioned. We haven't scheduled that yet, but it will be in mid-July, including Steve Stoll, Historic Board Administrator, Steve Kutu, the city electrician, and we really want to understand what is it that the neighbors of the Riverwalk feel is unsafe. Would they like, is it a matter of fixing up the lighting? Is it a matter of adding more lighting? Is it a matter of doing accent lighting or other elements such as that? So we really want to get an understanding of the issues and concerns and brainstorm some strategies together with the public. And then we'll go back and look at the feasibility and funding and work with our partners to see what can be implemented.
Thank you so much. I think the community really appreciates us looking into this and putting together a plan. Thank you.
Thank you. All set. Next, car, condo, neighborhood parking. Councilor Cirillo.
Hi, yes, thank you. I see that the Department of Planning and Development is currently drafting an RFQ for a comprehensive city parking study that will include evaluation of existing neighborhood parking conditions and development of recommendations for strategic management of neighborhood parking. I think this is a great step. And I think that this will be a great help. Thank you.
Okay. Next, we have letter reading. Councilor Cirillo.
Yes, thank you. This is really exciting. I'm just going to read quickly. Image Theater and Middlesex Community College have expressed initial and enthusiastic interest in pursuing this concept. Image Theater will be the producing group. MCC has offered to make their new Richard and Nancy Donahue Academic Arts Center Theater, which seats 180, available as the venue. With these partners, this has the potential to be a well-received event, utilizing theater arts to provide a new, unique perspective on Lowell's history, industrial, immigrant, literacy, culture, and arts. It's just very exciting. It's going to be a wonderful event, and I look forward to it, so thank you.
Okay. Next, Inspector Tablets. Councilor Noon.
I'm all set for that. Thanks for the report.
And finally, Rental Property Registry. Councilor Elliott.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll be brief. I did speak with Eric Slagle about this, and the city, the motion I put forward was to have any landlords register their properties. And I'm not trying to create an undue burden. There is a database that has been developed, and there's 20,000 registered apartments throughout the city or units. So I think that's good. I just wanted to make sure that we've had a problem with homeowners or individuals converting their homes and not registering their apartments or their rentals. So I think there is a component to this that will go live. So when folks in a neighborhood see that there might, the single family or might be renting out and it's not properly zoned, that they can go on and check. So I don't know if there's anything more to add, Eric or Madam Manager, that I think that's an element, that knowing, okay, we have this registry per se, and there is a database, and this apartment at this address is registered. And if they're not, then that's the step we can take.
Right. And we spoke about this, and I think that transparency and accessibility to the information is something that we need to work toward. We have the data. Now it's what can we do, and how can we make it readily available?
Right. And what happens, it goes to neighborhood leaders, and it comes to you or it comes to us. It might be helpful if, as you mentioned, there's a transparency element to it, and getting that, I don't know, is it a module, or is it, how do we get that live per se?
How do we access it?
Right. So currently, we have those 20,000 applications that have come in under the rental property ordinance. They are located in Munis, which is our data management system. So the information is available. If somebody calls in, we have access to the information. We currently have a module for Munis called Customer Self-Service, which has the potential to allow non-city employees to have kind of a public-facing view of different things in Munis, like you could see if your neighbor had a building permit for the work that's going on there or something like that. So this would be another facet of that customer-facing system. Would be, you could see if they have a rental permit, and if the rental permit was there, it would have the information on the landlord. In the interim, before that module goes live, I'm trying to see if there's an interim way to pull the data out of Munis and provide it, on the city website in a more abbreviated form. But ultimately, it's the customer self-service module that will be planning to have all that stuff, not just the rental registry, but also things like building permits available to us.
No, I think that makes sense. As more units are converted, and with that typically will come parking or other challenges. People, neighbors, residents, they can just go online and look it up and see if they're in compliance, and that's all we're looking for. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Next, we have petition response, Park Street. Madam Manager.
Yes, and I know Natasha is here. This was a petition by a resident out on Park Street because of the no parking tow zone signs that appeared, due in part to some of the work National Grid was doing out there, and Natasha has been out there and has come up with a recommendation that, if approved, would be on the 60-day trial. So do you want to address the?
Yeah, I mean, I guess there was an initial complaint from some residents in the area about having difficulty seeing. I went and did a site review. It was challenging to see to pull out, and so I restricted parking on a small section. Mrs. McDonald owns the multifamily home across the street, and that's where some of her residents park. So a good compromise was to allow them to park overnight, but not in the mornings when people are trying to pull out. So assuming the 60-day trial is approved, the sign department will make that change to the sign, and we'll see if that works better. I would just note that a number of times with 60-day trials, especially when they're more significant than a 15-minute parking spot or handicap spot, people are caught by surprise because that actually is our notification. So the city isn't obligated to make any kind of public notification for a 60-day trial. The idea is that it's a pilot program, and if it's not working, we won't make it a permanent ordinance. And of course, that's a number of things like Merrill Drive, Perry Street, where people are caught by surprise and then they come to council. So in an effort to try and maybe minimize some of that back and forth, when there's a more significant 60-day trial, I'm proposing that we would notify, figure out some sort of notification plan. I'm initially thinking any abutting or immediately impacted property owners would get a letter, and we would post it on the city website in some easy to find location. But I'm obviously up for suggestions if people have better ideas.
Yeah, I think as we have been finding out with some of these 60-day trials, they do seem to surprise people.
Mm-hmm.
And so whatever we can do. So the suggestion that Natasha made was to notify those immediate abutters by mail, and either they or their neighbors may know about it and talk about it so that they're not caught unawares. And so I think at least we should try that, and especially with some of the more significant impacts.
Yeah.
Okay. Councilor Leahy.
Through you to the manager, this is just a situation where also that the damage is done. I don't know why we overdeveloped that area. It's a disconnect with our boards. I mean, we put all that big development in there. You had East Merrimack Street, which is already overcrowded. I mean, we're just preaching to the choir here, but we continue to have this disconnect with our boards and overdeveloped neighborhoods like that. And now we're looking at 60-day trials, and you can't park where you used to park and all this stuff. So, we do it to ourselves.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's true. There were many condominiums built or apartments, or I'm not sure what they are, but they're there.
We just added 24 more units over there.
Yeah. So, but I do think at least trying to have residents be able to park in evenings and weekends could alleviate some of the strain.
Sure. Thank you.
Okay. Next, the construction projects. Madam Manager.
Yes, there is an update. Christine Clancy, city engineer, Natasha Vance, transportation engineer, who both participated in preparing these updates and are here to answer those. We also are proposing periodically to have these updated for the council, and we'll put them on the website as well. So I don't know if anybody has any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Please forgive me, but I wanted to ask you for the last item that came up. Did you notify the lady that came before us and give her a copy of your response?
I called her and let her know that this was how I was planning to respond.
Okay.
And then once the council, did you all approve the petition? I don't know if the petition response has to be approved. It'll be mailed to her.
Oh, so she'll know what we know.
Yes, and
All right.
I did call her probably 2 weeks ago to let her know. And I also cleared it with the police department and the parking department that they wouldn't ticket anybody in the interim so that her residents could park. So they've been parking back in their location.
Good. Thank you so much.
Sure.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
Back on the...
Sure, just one quick.
Councilor Leahy.
Can we how's the VFW project going? I know it's a long project, but...
The Beaver Brook project?
Yeah, that extends all the way down to Aiken Street?
Well, that's really, I think, is really a separate Mass DOT there's the intersection improvement projects on Aiken Street and at Mammoth Road, and then there's the VFW bridge replacement project at Beaver Brook. So really two.
So the project at Aiken and VFW, how's that? Right on the corner.
So that project that is in here, and that is going well. As far as the completion, it's October 28th, 2019, so that is on schedule to be completed. I think at first they were thinking they might be able to finish a little sooner, but their contract end date is October 28th, so that is going well. There is some coordination.
This coming October?
This coming October. There is some coordination going on right now with the placement of those traffic signals and just having access down to the river. That is going on right now, but we did recently meet with them. I know they also have the large dirt piles right there, and I have been communicating with them to see when they are. They have told me they are moving them soon. I just don't have an exact date yet, but. And there was also, just in terms of, they are working around that monument, and so just making sure they keep that area clean. I think the dirt pile is that once that's gone, that will help.
All right. I mean, that's my major concern. It's a disgrace for that memorial, what they're doing to it over there. So, you know, the sooner they get out of there and fix that area back up, the better. It's just.
It should be soon. I'll ask for some specific dates, but when I talked to them last, it was first they have to look at the final location of the traffic signals and how we're coordinating that, and then it should be soon, they said, but I'll try to get some more specific dates about the moving of those piles.
All right. I just think it's disgraceful the way they're treating that. So it looks awful. Thank you.
We can reiterate that with MassDOT and just like we have talked to them about it. You brought it up the last time, but we will reiterate it.
No, Councilor Cirillo.
Hi, yes, thank you. I did have a quick question. I see all the completion dates here. Are all of these projects on schedule? Are they meeting the schedule date so that, and if not, what are we doing to help them try and meet their schedule? Thank you.
Sure, I can answer that. As far as say, in generally, the projects are on schedule. With Mass DOT projects, that's where that schedule is a little out of our control. So we try to get frequent updates. And the Tiger program, there are some delays that we're working through right now. But right now, that is a long duration program. So we're trying to work on. Right now, that completion date is still realistic. On here is also Streets F&G. And that is also, I mean, I think a lot of these projects, when we say they are on schedule for substantial completion, but there's also punch list and closeout work. So there's, I think, generally speaking, we are on schedule on these projects, but there are cases where we do have amendment or execution of change orders. The first project on here is Lawrence Street Bridge, so that was delayed because of National Grid gas relocation, but now that's been completed. So I guess the dates here are to the best of our knowledge, but we just try to, as anything comes up, we do provide updates, and which is why we want to provide updates on more of I think we're talking maybe every couple months, and putting together a figure too, just to kind of map out where these are in relation to each other, and this would be also posted on the city website for people to see.
Great, thank you so much.
Other questions? Thank you. I need a motion to accept and place on file all these reports.
So moved.
By Councilor Mercia, second by Councilor Cirillo. Thank you. Next, we have communications from the Planning Board. We've already dealt with this. Recommended the proposed zoning amendments to extend light industry to include parcels 264 and 266 Plain Street and 58 Montreal Street. I need a motion to accept and place on file. By Councilor Noon, second by Councilor Mercia. Thank you. Next, we have communication. City Manager requests out-of-state travel. One member of the Lowell Police Department. I need a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Seconded.
Noon, second by Councilor Cirillo. Roll call.
Mayor Samaras.
Yes.
Council Cirillo.
Yes.
Council Conway.
Yes.
Council Elliott.
Yes.
Council Kennedy.
Yes.
Council Leahy.
Yes.
Council Mercia.
Yes.
Council Milonazo.
Yes.
Council Noon.
Yes.
That's 9 yeas.
Next, we need a vote to authorize the manager to execute a First Amendment Main Street, Massachusetts LLC Spinners lease. Waive the full reading and second reading by title. Authorize the city manager to execute First Amendment to baseball stadium lease agreement between the City of Lowell and Main Street, Massachusetts LLC, the Lowell Spinners relative to the use of the Edward A. LaLache Park in the City of Lowell for use by the Lowell Spinners. Okay, I need a motion to adopt.
Motion to adopt.
By Councilor Kennedy, second by Councilor Elliott. Any discussion? Councilor Leahy?
Sure. Through you, the manager, how long is this, a 5-year deal then, or?
This was a 10-year lease. It was entered into in June of 2017. The amendment does two things. It corrects some things that were contained in the original lease that needed to be addressed. One was the term. It said on the face of it that it was a 10-year lease starting from the date of the lease, which was June 23rd, 2017, but then it also said it ended December 31st in 10 years hence. So we adjusted that to make it clear that the end of the lease was December 31st, not in June. And also we adjusted the rent because it only mentioned an annual rent. So we prorated it for that additional 6 months. So in reality, it was a 10-year, 6-month lease. And then the other aspect to the change was that the original lease had provided that the city would be responsible or would absolve the Spinners from paying personal property tax. Under state law, that's not allowed. The city cannot absolve them from paying personal property tax. But in the spirit of what deal was struck with the Spinners, that's when we made an adjustment, and Connor can speak to it. He looked at the numbers throughout the balance and having to do with other certain water and sewer charges, so that the net amount is no different to them. It was just they'll have to pay their personal property tax, and then we've made an adjustment so that they get the benefit of the bargain that they had anticipated. So those are the two changes to the lease.
Okay, thank you.
All set? Okay, I need a roll call.
Mayor Samaras.
Yes.
Council Cirillo.
Yes.
Council Conway.
Yes.
Council Elliott.
Yes.
Council Kennedy.
Yes.
Council Leahy.
Yes.
Council Mercia.
Yes.
Council Milonazo.
Yes.
Council Noon.
Yes.
9 yeas.
Next, I need a vote to endorse the approval of the 2019 Open Space and Recreation Plan, waive the full reading, second reading by title. Endorsing the approval of the 2019 Open Space and Recruitment Plan. Need a motion to adopt?
Motion.
By Councilor Milonazo, second by Councilor Cirillo. Discussion? Roll call?
Mayor Samaras.
Yes.
Council Cirillo.
Yes.
Council Conway.
Yes.
Council Elliott.
Yes.
Council Kennedy.
Yes.
Council Leahy.
Yes.
Council Mercia.
Yes.
Council Milonazo.
Yes.
Council Noon.
Yes.
9 yeas.
Next, we have a series of motions. I'd like to, a motion to bundle and adopt, and I'll read each one separately. By Councilor Conway, seconded by
Second.
Councilor Noon. Okay, so the thing is, waive the full reading, the second reading by title.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
If I could, just for clarification, there are transfers from 7.6 to 7.17, but 7.5 and 7.4.
No, I'm just doing 7.3 through 7.5 right now.
So that would be the unpaid invoices for the
Yes.
school department and for the senior center?
Yes.
Okay, I just,
Okay, I'm sorry, I should have said that. So the first one is to fix the maximum amount that may be spent during the fiscal year 2020, beginning on July 1, 2019, for the revolving funds established in the city ordinance for certain department, boards, committees, agencies, or offices in accordance with Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 44, 53E1/2, or take any other actions relative thereto. The next would be to approve the payment of unpaid invoices from prior fiscal year for the Senior Center, Division of Health and Human Services Department, fiscal year 2019. And finally, to approve the payment of unpaid invoices from prior fiscal year for the school department. So I need a motion, I heard the motion. Any more discussion?
Yes.
Councilor Elliott?
I
Councilor Mercia?
I think 7.3 should be taken separately because I have issues with, I have concerns about 7.4 and 7.5. So I'll vote to support the spending limits of the revolving fund or adopting Mass General laws, but the other two, I'd like to ask some questions, if I can.
So we'll go pick that back.
Okay, we'll take 7.3 separately.
Yeah, I think that makes sense, because I'd like to refer both of these to the Finance Subcommittee.
Councilor Mercia?
And I just want to speak on 7.4, the senior center.
All right, we're on 7.3 now.
All right, Councilor Milonazo? You all set? Okay. All right,
So
7.3.
I move to approve 7.3, vote spending limits on
Second.
revolving.
Need a second for that?
Second. Second.
Okay, by Councilor Kennedy. All right, roll call.
Mayor Samaras.
Yes.
Councilor Cirillo.
Yes.
Councilor Conway.
Yes.
Councilor Elliott.
Yes.
Councilor Kennedy.
Yes.
Councilor Leahy.
Yes.
Councilor Mercia.
Yes.
Councilor Milonazo.
Yes.
Councilor Noon.
Yes.
9 yeas.
Okay.
Mr.
Next,
Mayor,
you want to take
Mr. Mayor,
7.4, Councilor Mercia?
can I just ask you in that, I have no problem with supporting that, although I'm going to tell you, I'm doing this reluctantly because I'm very PO'd to think that all this money was mismanaged and POs were not done right, and it just frosts me to know, and I want to give again credit to Miss Billy Jo Turner, who has done a tremendous job. I don't know how she did it, but what I'm seeing is the fact that $7,900 for Powers and Sullivan for the audit, we're paying for their audit? I mean, I supported this, but this, I don't know if this was bundled into that vote or not, but I just want to voice my opinion that I'm disgusted with all this that we have to do through no fault of our own, inadequate happenings over on the school side, and we're the ones that are burdened with paying it, and I'm very...
But we're picking up the pieces of what had happened with the budget system.
Well, I mean, I should
This is just to put closure to...
Yeah, it's putting closure at our expense. Through no fault of our own, we're paying bad debt for some other entity, and I think it's wrong. But be that as it may, I'm supporting it to try to make things proper again. Thank you.
Councilor Elliott?
So we're on 7.4 first. Can you explain, these are bad bills from the senior center, and then I'd like to talk about the school as well, but why are there invoices back to 2017, and how did these come to the surface with the senior center? I mean, Lowell janitorial supply, can we get an explanation on, I get it, it's $1,700, but again, these are old bills.
Yeah, these, I'll let Connor Baldwin, the CFO, address. These are things that came to light after the director left. I don't know whether
That's
I think
correct.
they weren't purchase orders.
And as a point of clarification for the council, in order to process these bills, because their dates are from prior fiscal years, this body needs to take a vote to approve the payment using a current year appropriation. So the matter of which budget is paying the bill, this body is the one that needs to take the vote to approve their payment.
Thank you. So I concur with Council Mercier. This is, I'm taken aback, as we've been talking about this since we had the first Finance Subcommittee meeting, I don't know, a year and a half ago, and we're talking close to $175,000, and it seems like it's the culture, that people are just going out and they're obligating taxpayer money without the process. We have a process. There's paperwork. There are approvals. There's a system that everyone has to go through. You can't just go out and. I'm looking at some of the bills of WB Mason and Market Basket. Council Mercer brought up a good point. Powers and Sullivan, they know there's a purchase order process. There are auditors. Somebody told them to go and do an audit. Can we get an explanation of do you know what that $7,900 is for, Mr. Baldwin? I did look at all the invoices, and, I see many of them, at the high school for Johnson Controls and Honeywell, and there are some problems. I get it, but there's got to be a purchase order, has to be approval in place. You can't just go out and order things and then, oh, by the way, I don't have any approval to do this, and somebody's going to pay it, and now it's the taxpayers, and it's coming out of this year's appropriation. So I understand we voted the state law, and now this is the next point, the next step in the process, but it's extraordinarily frustrating that obligations are being made, and I guess my question is, someone has to be held accountable on this. So I know I asked some questions and I made some statements, so I'll stop there.
Thank you, Councilor. I think the city manager and the finance department certainly share the frustration of the council with this. Frequently throughout the year, several times a year, the former city auditor and the finance department submit directives to departments about the procedures that are necessary, about compliance with the reserve system ordinance in the city. And then as the year progresses towards the end of the year, we remind department heads about the need for purchase orders, the need for clearing out purchase orders and submitting invoices timely before the close of the fiscal year. This is not something that we are happy about at all. However, the situation exists, and the only remedy under the law is for this body to allow payment. These services were performed. I think that we've put in corrective measures since the time that we've found out about these on the city side. It is my understanding that Ms. Turner on the school side has been doing something similar, and we will hope that moving forward all departments will comply with the rules and regulations for finance in the city.
Okay, well, this is good. It's got to stop. And, you know, everybody has a budget, everybody has to live with it, and they have to follow the rules. So I will reluctantly support this because the people that perform the work, it's not their fault that, you know, the approvals were not in place. But I'd like to refer this to the Finance Subcommittee to see exactly what steps have been taken to prevent this from happening. And maybe, as you just mentioned, maybe it's a quarterly reminder, and that there are year-end deadlines, and you got to get your invoices in and your bills paid, and you got to get approval first.
Do I have a second for that?
Yes, second.
Councilor Mercia. You all say Councilor Elliott?
Yes, I am. Thank you, Mr.
Mercia,
Mayor.
then Councilor Noon, then Councilor Milhauser.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Let me first say this. I went thoroughly over every single piece of paper that we got, every invoice, because I certainly was not going to sit here and support a lawsuit payment where a school committee sued the city council for...
We're talking 747.
I know that. I'm going back to that. So it wasn't in here, so I just wanted to clear...
I just want to stay on...
Right, but I'm telling you that I'm going back to that because I meant to say that and I didn't. But it isn't in here, so that's fine. Having said that, and going into what we have now, this vote before us is for $1,691.04. I understand that. I want you to know that there is another bill, but it's not before us this evening. It's a bill that was asked of the Friends of the Council on Aging. And I want to stress this because with the turmoil that's going on at the senior center in bloggers, and that's why I don't read bloggers, but it got to me that because I'm on a board at the Council on Aging, that it was my fault that all this unrest has been taking place. So I'm here to defend myself and clear the air and say that, yes, I am on a board at the Council on Aging. It's called the Friends of the Council on Aging. It has nothing to do with the senior center per se or the city. We're an independent 501c3 that appropriates money for the purpose of paying things like amenities that couldn't be funded through a city budget. We buy TVs, we buy a dishwasher, we buy a stove, we clean things, we do things there. And we did receive a request through Karen Vigro, who is the department head and interim director of the Council on Aging in the meantime. And this one is for $1,723.53. We don't meet again until Friday. We meet the last Friday of every month. I want you to know that we will be paying that bill. I took a poll of everybody on the board, and everyone individually said that they would pay it. So that's what I'm here to say, that although we are the friends, we don't ask for anything and not accept to give in return. And the reason we decided to do that is because since Karen was in charge there, we brought forth at our meetings all the things that needed to be done there. Like, for example, the floors were a mess. The floors are in excellent shape now, thanks to her. The cleaning of the hardwood floors in the great room and the second floor classroom and the pool room, they look tremendous. And I'm publicly saying this because when you go in and you try to organize and do things the right way, people don't understand that when they've been doing things other ways. So I'm personally saying that I commend her for everything that she has done. And having said that, that is why we're paying that bill. We don't have to. She's asked us, and we're doing it because we pay our fair share. So to say that this group, you know, we're causing the commotion there, no, we're not. That has nothing to do with us. I'm not on a board that oversees that. We pay for amenities, and I wanted to set the record straight because I'm not taking blame for something that I'm not doing. This has nothing to do with our board. So thank you, Mr. Mayor, for letting me say that. And we'll be happy to pay that bill, and we'll be voting on it Friday. We'll cut you the check for that money. Thank you.
Councilor Noon.
Thank you, Mayor. This school department.
We're on the senior center.
Oh, senior center. Senior center.
Okay,
I think you spoke on both, yeah. I think with the senior center, if I may, you know, it's a small amount, and that problem need to also be addressed. I'm not so concerned about the unpaid bill from the senior center, but I do seriously concerned with the unpaid bill from the school department. That said, that strongly support a need for the school and the city. The school meaning the treasurer, the financial officer from the school, our city auditor, future city auditor, and our CFO, Connor, to work closely together so that this same issue does not happen again. There's a way to prevent it. So maybe they can call themselves a working group who take care of the money, the city money. That way, this kind of problem doesn't happen again. That way, we don't point finger at each other, rather working together. So I think I'm looking forward for that day to happen and happen soon, because soon we're going to have a new auditor, Connor, CFO, and the CFO for the school, so that this problem doesn't occur again. Thank you.
You're correct, but that's why I asked the previous auditor for a report to work with working with the school committee to take care of these issues because they're out of control. But you're correct. Councilor Milonazo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I plan to vote in support of both requests for payment of unpaid invoices. My question has to do with how many employees on both the city side and the school side actually have received their certification in public procurement through the Office of the Inspector General. Because we, you know, again, I actually, along with a couple of my department heads down in Revere, we're all certified. It's a 9-week course, and it's something that has to be renewed. It was every 3 years, but now, as probably Councilor Elliott knows as well, they now want you to take refreshers every year. So I'd be curious to see how many of our employees, because this is public procurement 101. I mean, if you don't have a purchase order, you're not buying materials and/or services. So, again, it's disheartening that it's that high on the school side. And at the same time, I don't know if any of my colleagues watched the school committee meeting the other night, but we were beat up, especially this administration, by school committee members. I know the mayor was there, about an invoice that we've now pushed over to their side relative to a water charge. They were talking about $250,000, and they were outraged. I don't know if it was more theater than fact, but at the end of the day, again, we need to work together. And again, coming forward with $175,000 on unpaid invoices is something that I think we're all in support of, but it's something that should never have happened. And if we're going to work together, we can't be getting beat up on every other Wednesday night by the school committee. It just is not something that should happen.
You're correct.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? Council Leahy?
Just quick clarification that as far as the school bill's going, we're just authorizing for the school department to pay them. We're not actually paying it out of our budget, are we? Or that be?
That's our understanding.
Yeah.
Yes, and Mr.
Correct.
Dakota was nodding affirmatively.
Okay. The business director? Assistant business, okay. All right, thank you.
All set? Ready for roll call? Roll call.
This is roll call on 7-4 and 7-5. Mayor Samaras.
Yes.
Councilor Cirillo.
Yes.
Councilor Conway.
Yes.
Councilor Elliott.
Yes.
Councilor Kennedy.
Yes.
Councilor Leahy. Councilor Mercia.
Yes.
Councilor Milonazo.
Yes.
Councilor New.
Yes.
9 yeas.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
If there's no objection, I would like to move that we bundle items 7.6 through 7.17, all of which are transfers.
Correct.
I'll second that.
Second by Councilor Cirillo. Any discussion? Councilor Elliott?
I'll just say briefly on these transfers, I think it's a reflection, particularly in payroll and snow and ice and some of the other transfers of good financial management. You know, we're taking money from open positions, knowing, and transferring it into the salary reserve, revolving fund, as well as clearing out the snow and ice deficit, so we're not raising taxes to pay for this year's snow and ice. So I think they're prudent measures, and I'll support them. I'm going to presume at the end of after the close of the books with, you know, we set the budget this year with some stabilization funding. We're going to replenish that. Do you, some of these transfers going to accumulate to offset some of the stabilization, or that's FY19 unreserved fund balance?
That would be for next year. We did, one of the transfers that you mentioned, Councilor, is to bring money forward for settling the outstanding collective bargaining agreements. There was an amount greater than that will fall to free cash. So it is related to your comment. We hope that what's left and falls to free cash will go towards replacing stabilization next year. And we've been able to absorb much of the settled contracts from within the existing appropriation this year, which I think is notable.
I agree. I'll support these transfers, Mr. Mayor, so thank you.
I want to thank Councilor Kennedy for bundling these. All right, I have to read them out for the record, and then, Councilor Mercia.
We're going to bundle all this. I don't have a problem with it, but I'd just like to talk and have an explanation from Connor Baldwin about the senior center bus, because it seems like it's going on, and I know this vote would probably be to have this money appropriated in a particular fiscal year so that we're not looking down the road as some discrepancy here. And I know it's taken forever and a day, and I don't want to have people think that I'm going to help them, and I'm not. So if you could just explain, I know that it's not like you go at a lot and you pick out a bus, right. And I just want to see if you can explain it so people know that there is a bus that eventually will be driving down there. So
Thank you, Councilor. Through you, Mr. Mayor, and I assure you that the city manager is moving this along. However, we're towards the end of the fiscal year, and as this council may remember, something similar happened last year with the this council appropriated funding for the van over at the high school, the television production, where the money was appropriated in a certain fiscal year. We got towards the end of the fiscal year, and in order for the funds not to close to the city's bottom line for cash, an appropriation is needed to carry it forward. Now, I'll remind the council that the funds that were allocated for the bus were found in savings this year, so this is something where we're able to appropriate the funding and not have to borrow the money for the bus, which would have interest costs associated with it. However, it's more of a technical procedural matter where we will transfer it into a capital project fund and then be able to appropriate it once the bus is delivered. The bus is being assembled as we speak. It does take a considerable amount of time for that to happen to meet our specifications.
But you think we'll see it in 2019 sometime?
Calendar year 2019, the plan is the end of October, that we will take delivery of the vehicle.
Okay,
We will try to move that up as much
Because
as
people are thinking that I'm talking whistling Dixie and this isn't happening, so thank you.
Manager?
Thank you, and through you to the council. Obviously, we are as anxious, I think, as the people waiting for the bus to see it and to get it here. It did have to be custom designed, and we worked with people at the senior center as to what their wants were and to accommodate, things like luggage or wheelchair and a handicap lift and so forth. We were able to get it even cheaper than we thought, and so we were able to put an entertainment package onto the bus. So I think it's going to be worth the wait, but we are anxious, and we're speaking to the vendor. We will speak to them again tomorrow to see if there's some way that they can speed this along.
Thank you so much.
All set? All right. 7.6, vote to transfer $1 million to cover various financial obligations. 7.7, vote to transfer $113,429 to cover various financial obligations. 7.8, vote to transfer $130,201 to cover various financial obligations. 7.9, vote to transfer $155,000 to cover various financial obligations. 7.10, vote to transfer $192,000 to cover various financial obligations. 7.11, vote transfer $20,000 to disability revolving account. 7.12, vote transfer $213,000 to cover various financial obligations. 7.13, vote transfer $32,003.47 to cover various financial obligations. 7.14, vote to transfer $5,000 to cover various financial obligations. 7.15, vote to transfer $548,000 to cover various financial obligations. 7.16, to vote to transfer $6,000 to cover various financial obligations. 7.17, vote to transfer $65,101.97 to move receipts to new police training revolving fund. I need a roll call.
Mayor Samaras.
Yes.
Council Cirillo.
Yes.
Council Conway.
Yes.
Council Elliott.
Yes.
Council Kennedy.
Yes.
Council Leahy.
Yes.
Council Mercia. Council Milonato.
Yes.
Council New.
Yes.
9 yeas.
Okay, next we have orders from the city manager, order 60-day trial, waive the full reading, second reading by title. Pursuant to Chapter 266 of the Code of Ordinance, City of Lowell, Massachusetts, concerning Section 266-6, therefore, thereof entitled Temporary Experimental Regulations, Temporary Traffic Regulations, are hereby implemented for a period of up to 60 days. I need a motion to adopt.
Motion to adopt.
By Council Cirillo, second by Council Elliott. Roll call.
Mayor Samaras.
Yes.
Council Cirillo.
Yes.
Council Conway.
Yes.
Council Elliott.
Yes.
Council Kennedy.
Yes.
Council Leahy. Council Mercia.
Yes.
Council Milonato.
Yes.
Council New.
Yes.
9 yeas.
Next, we order vacate, discontinue, and abandon Lakeland Avenue. A motion to refer to a public hearing for July 23rd, 2019 at 7 p.m. Need a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Cirillo, second by Councilor Elliott. Next, we have order vacate, discontinue, abandon portion of Middlesex Street, portions of Thorndike Street. Motion to refer to a public hearing on July 23rd, 2019 at 7 p.m.
So moved.
By Councilor Cirillo, second by Councilor Noon. Then, Councilor Kennedy, do you want to do the Economic Committee tonight, or put it?
We'll do it at the next meeting if there's no
Thank you.
objection.
Okay. Next, we have, need a motion to bundle, adopt accompanying orders 9.2, 9.3, 9.4
So moved.
by Councilor Moved by Councilor Cirillo, seconded by
Yep,
Councilor
second.
Noon. It's 9.2, wire inspector, National Grid required installation of South Pole at, SO pole at 500 Wentworth Avenue. 9.3, wire inspector, National Grid require installation of SO pole on Woburn Street at an intersection of Easton Street. 9.4, National Grid require installation of 2.3-inch underground electric conduit at 27 West 3rd Street. I need, no, we're all set. I need to refer to the wire inspector. Just refer to the wire inspector?
Oh, sorry.
No. Accept and adopt a company order. Thank you. We have that motion? Yeah, we got it. Okay, next we have petitions. Property damage, motion to refer to Law Department for report and recommendation.
So
by
moved.
Councilor Milonazo, second by Councilor Noon. Then 10.2, National Grid wire installation of SO pole at 90 Old Ferry Road. I need a motion to refer to a public hearing July 23rd, 2019 at 7 p.m.
So moved.
Councilor Cirillo, second by Councilor Elliott. Next, finally, we go into City Council motions. First motion by Councilor Leahy, Elliott, Mercia, Cirillo. Require city manager meet with the Songus Arena Commission regarding the management company at the arena. So it doesn't need a second. Is that Councilor Leahy?
Sure. When we put this motion in, it was brought to my attention, there's no arena commission anymore, but what it is people from the Renaissance just want more information with events that go on, and my colleagues can comment on it too. I think it was with just parking situations, traffic, and things like that. So they just like to have more communication, so.
Councilor Elliott?
Well, the myself and my three other colleagues were at a neighborhood meeting, or I think soon to be a neighborhood, another organization, Renaissance on the River, and amongst other things, there was Sean was there, as well as other members of the Board of Parks and other employees of the city. So the concern is that the Songus Arena has events, and they are completely unaware of them, large-scale events, and they're trapped because of either foot traffic or vehicle traffic. So I'm sure Shauna brought some of the other issues to your attention, Madam Manager. It was a productive meeting, and it was well attended. And this was one of the issues. Is there no more arena commission?
There's no arena, there's a civic stadium commission.
Civic stadium, okay.
But the arena is owned outright by the university.
Okay.
So Inspectra Management is their management company. After that, I know we did, Shauna has been in touch with Spectra.
Okay.
We had a discussion today, and we'll get this report, because there are certain things we don't have advance notice of,
Right.
the city. And so we need better communication, not just know the day of a 7,000 person event at the arena, but in advance, so everybody knows. And there were detailed notice, but I know they have an email list or something of that nature. Sometimes, Case will get it. Henry Marchand, when he has things, he'll put them out there. But I think we do need better channels of communication all around.
Yeah, I think the organization at the Renaissance, they've tried to reach out, and I believe and they've had some success with some employees helping them, but when it came to the management company, they sort of hit a stone wall and weren't treated very respectfully. So.
Well, we can contact the university as well. The management company and the university who owns the facility.
Thank you.
Okay. Councilor Mercia?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That was a very informative meeting, and the neighbors are just delightful. They had a few, well, I won't say a few, they had a whole agenda almost similar to yours, Madam Manager. It was a lengthy one, and they were concerned, and that's why four of us did make this motion together. But I did receive a call today from Keith Vasky, the general manager of the Songus Arena. He caught wind of this motion, and he asked me to explain it, and I did, and he said, absolutely, I'd be happy to reach out to the residents that live at the Renaissance on the River. Having said that, I have a similar motion too, 11.5, and it deals with the other end, which is the Perkins-Aiken Street intersection and the ballpark. It seems that they'd like a coordinated effort as to events that are taking place so that they can not be trying to get out at these particular
Can I have a
times.
second on that so we can have it on the floor? Councilman Milano,
Thank you. I'm sorry, Will. That's the gist of that motion that ties along with the first one. When you stop and think, like the other day, at 10 o'clock, we had a Franco-American flag raising. We knew that at 10 o'clock through the radio, WCAP, that in would come a bunch of traffic for that scientist technology at the Songus Arena. It was magnificent to see that crowd come in and people go along to the different venues here, restaurants and stuff. Knowing the city as I do, and anybody knew that coming in would have taken me a few minutes this way, but not with all the traffic. So I went around the city to make it here really in good time. And that's what they're asking it for. Let us know where these events are taking place so we can get our stuff done before this traffic. And that's all they're asking through these two motions. Thank you.
If you recall, I had a motion last week similar to get that type of information,
Yeah.
because that's what's,
That's right.
making it hard for
Yeah.
people. So,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. It was a very well-attended meeting, and the residents were very informed, and I think that, well, first of all, I also want to thank Councilor Elliott, because he did message all of us that were there and asked us if we all wanted to be collaborative on this motion, and I really appreciate that. So thank you, Councilor Elliott. And also, I think that the residents in the general vicinity would greatly appreciate us working with them and our community partners to get them schedules so that they are prepared for driving home, for parking, and all of that. So I really feel it was a very good meeting, and in any way that we can help, I think that they would be greatly appreciative. So thank you.
Okay. All right, thank you. Next, we have a motion by Council Leahy, Council Conway. Request Rules Subcommittee examine possibility of restructuring City Council agenda so the motions can be placed at the beginning of said agenda.
I'll let Councilor Conway go first.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think that we've talked about this a number of times, and I think tonight's is a great example. Here we are, approximately 9:45, and I think that in the last few meetings, we've run into that situation too, where we're kind of hurrying things up a bit. And you got to keep in mind, it's not just the ideas of the councilors, but it's also bringing messages from our constituents, which I think is extremely important. And one other added fact too is there are people that would like to come down and sometimes speak on a motion, and to have them stay here for a couple hours, two or 2.5 hours, I think, it might be something that we want to take a look at and see if we can move that towards the front of the agenda like they do on the school committee, Mr. Mayor. And that way there, we kind of get those motions out of the way. It's just a thought, and I think if we can review that, it might be a great idea. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
All right. So the subcommittee, any further discussion? Okay. Next, Council Leahy, request City Manager provide update to City Council regarding the contract with Verizon for the placement of smart technology imposed throughout the city. I need a second.
Seconded.
By Councilman Mercia. Thank you.
Thank you. Through you to the manager. While we're negotiating that contract with Sci-Fi, a number of years ago, we did these cantanas, I think they call them, and I think Verizon at the time promised us a lot of new technology, smart technology, things like that. So if we could take a look at that agreement we made and see if anything's gonna duplicate itself in this new negotiation and things like that. So that's the gist of the motion, just to make sure that we're getting our money's worth out of the old contract, we're not duplicating it in the new contract. Thank you.
All set. Next, motion 11.4 by Councilor Conway, request city manager meet with the city solicitor to formally request a copy of all time sheets reflecting hours spent and tasks billed by attorneys, as well as the cost and expense for the litigation of the Hoot et al. Versus the city of Lowell. Need a second? Second. By Councilor Leahy. Councilor Conway?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think it speaks for itself. Before we start spending taxpayers' money, I think it's extremely important that we take a look at those timesheets and that we find out, what we're actually paying and where that money is being spent on. So, again, I think that when this is appropriate to bring forward, I think it's important that we do review those. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
City solicitor, do you want to comment? I just wanted to see if the city solicitor wants to comment.
Sure. My comment was only as to, sorry about that, as to public discussion. The court in this matter did order that discussions or information learned in the mediation sessions remain confidential, and that order is still in place. So, and the plaintiffs have informed us that to the extent you received sort of specifics about money that was sent, that the discussion not disclose those specifics. Other than that, the discussion can take place.
This is just preliminary information, but you request the city manager meet with the solicitor's office. Okay. Any other discussion? All right. Next, by Councilor Mercy, request city manager have proper department explore options into making the fountain at JFK Plaza more appealing.
Seconded.
Second by Councilor Cirillo.
Thank you. Thank you so much. When you go to the JFK Plaza and you see all the work that has been done with the bricks in the ground, and they outline different areas where you can put monuments, and then you turn to the left and you see the fountain. At one time, I can remember that fountain being so beautiful and water would come out of it. I don't know that I have a fountain in my backyard that does not work, and I made a beautiful flower planter out of it. And I think maybe we could improvise and do something with it. Could we just take a look and see if maybe we could spruce that up? You have all these beautiful flags around, and yet down underneath it's, ooh, I don't know what to say, but we could spruce it up really nice and make it beautiful where people could sit down on benches and just watch and feel like we're in the Boston Common or something. It would be beautiful. Maybe it's the woman in me that wants to spruce it up, but that's the gist of the motion. Thank you.
Madam Manager?
Yeah, thank you. We will we'll certainly come back. We've been meeting planning and development. They've been looking at it, coming up with some ideas. So we'll come back with some suggestions to the council, hopefully, that we can do in the near future.
I'm making this motion while you're the city manager, because I remember back when you were the mayor and you took a drab old mayor's reception room and you looked and sent people to the library to get an idea of what it looked like years ago, and we have the drapes there and the beautiful stenciled walls. So I know that you could do something with that. Thank you.
Next, we have Councilor Mercy request city manager have proper department install additional speed limit signs on Andover Street. Need a second? Second. By Councilor Leahy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This actually speaks for itself, and I think when I say add additional signs, I don't think there's any anywhere. I don't think there's any, but it's 35 miles an hour speed limit. Maybe if people were reminded that that's the speed limit, that they'd slow down. This is not my motion. This is from people that that called into our hotline, our message system, and I'm just bringing their message forward. Thank you.
Next, by Councilor Cirillo, request city manager have the proper department work with the theater and arts community to collaborate on the City of Lowell hosting National Film Festival. Need a second by Councilor Mercier. Councilor Cirillo.
Hi, yes, thank you. Jerry Bizantz couldn't be here this evening, but he did give me something that he would like me to read, so I'll read it very quickly. I'll read it really fast. Following the overwhelming success of the Image Theater's recent Film Festival, featuring original short films by New England women filmmakers held at the Whistler House Museum, I am convinced that a city of Lowell's standing and cultural heritage deserves its very own film festival. Full-length films, short films, and documentaries can be shown at various locations throughout our city, assuring that attendees travel the width of Lowell, getting an authentic taste of what our city has to offer, our restaurants, our art galleries, our shops, the ethnic quilt that makes our city so special. With the advent of Film Freeway, an internationally known website that promotes festivals to filmmakers all over the world, we can be assured that we will have no problem garnering quality films to be shown in various locations throughout the city for an entire weekend, enabling us to showcase our unique Lowell experience. So many cities, Cambridge, Arlington, Waltham, Provincetown, Providence, Rhode Island, Buffalo, New York, host successful film festivals. It is clear our city, too, can come alive with film professionals, new audiences, filling our restaurants and galleries, and injecting art income into our city. Collaborations with local visual artists, LTC, local film enthusiasts, and theater owners can make this a citywide yearly event that will keep new people coming back to Lowell year after year. Thank you.
Okay. Further discussion? Okay. Next, by Councilor Cirillo, requires city manager to have proper department review parking and traffic issues on Riverside Street between Alma and Lafayette Streets in Pawtuckaville. Second by Councilor Kennedy. Councilor
Yes,
Cirillo.
thank you. This was a resident. I just would like to have this area reviewed because people are parking on sidewalks because it's very hard for the cars to maneuver. So residents are parking on sidewalks, and so I would greatly appreciate this area being looked into. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next, by Councilor Milanazzo, request city manager to have transportation engineer review inbound left turn in front of Hannaford's on Roger Street. This left turn was not supposed to be allowed when Hannaford was approved.
Seconded.
Second by Councilor Cirillo. Councilor Milanazzo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The motion speaks for itself. I actually forwarded the constituents' email to the city manager, so I'm sure she's already working on it. Thank you.
Thank you. I just need, Councilor Mercy?
Are you saying that if you're coming down Roger Street, like you're heading towards Lowell, you can't take a left turn down Phoenix Avenue?
No, you can.
Oh, you
You
can?
can, but
you're talking about the...
once you pass McDonald's, there used to be a do not enter sign.
Okay, I
and it
see
got
what you're
knocked down.
saying.
Yeah.
I see what you mean, yeah.
Everybody's going to.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I just need a second for, I want to request the city manager to have instruct proper department to look into completing the paving of the sidewalk on Hovey Street between Lou Street and
Seconded.
Parker View.
Second.
Second by Councilor Cirillo. Motion speaks for itself, but we're talking about the hill. There's a partial sidewalk, but the thing is, children walking to school have sidewalks on both sides, but then when they're doing the hill, which is the most dangerous part of the walk, there's no sidewalks. All right, finally, we have the city council go into executive session for the purpose of discussing executive session minute notes and materials in connection with the lawsuit of Hood versus the City of Lowell to determine whether such minutes, notes, and materials may be released under the public records law. And we'll meet in open session, announce the reason. Okay, need a motion to enter executive session.
So moved.
And we'll adjourn from that meeting by Councilor Cirillo, second by Councilor Noon. Roll call. Yes.
Councilor Cirillo.
Yes.
Councilor Conway.
Yes.
Councilor Elliott.
Yes.
Councilor Kennedy. Councilor Leahy. Councilor Mercia.
Maybe, no, yes, yes.
Councilor Milanazzo.
Yes.
Councilor Noon.
Yes.
That's 9 years.
Any announcements?
There's going to be a nice event at Kerouac Park Thursday at 5:30. They're going to unveil the new stage that they have there. There's going to have many festivities and singing and things, so if the public is welcome, please attend. Henry Marchand would be happy if everybody attended. Thank you.
Thank you. Motion to adjourn? No, we're all set. Thank you. It's been done.
Good try.
Yeah, good try. Just trying to get.